Hey.
That's right, everybody. Not 8:05 live. Of course, it's 17:05. John, if you're listening, 17:05 is 5:05 p.m. I know he doesn't always get it right when it comes to the executive perspective. I got the luck of driving the Chief today, so hopefully I can get first grade out of it. And here, if you drive the Chief, that you can get first grade. So I'm looking forward to it. We got a great episode coming for you. Right now, Ron, he's in transit. He just landed in Texas. He's on his way to a wedding, so we wish him an awesome day. So he couldn't make it today. I don't know if I'm as handsome as Ron, so, wish me luck. Let's get right into it. Jessica Tisch is going to stay on as the police commissioner. Please give me credit. I did predict this a few weeks ago. I have said on the network, if anyone's been paying attention. What are your thoughts, sir? I'll put the car on the clock. Let's do it.
That's it. Hey, how come we didn't stop for coffee first? Come on. What the heck, man? Oh, and when you're driving me, my hands are like this. They don't reach into my pockets, Eric. So
you got alligator arms.
You got alligator arms. Yep. Yeah. So what happened, Jessica Tisch? You called it, right? I mean, you said it. I wasn't really shocked. I mean, you kind of thought about it. You heard about those meetings, right? Those secret meetings she was going over, pretty quiet. So I have my own little theory behind it. So Zohran. We'll talk about surviving the Zohran, right? Because it's gonna be a little ride. But Zohran, if you remember, Zohran suddenly needs $4 million, right? He needs $4 million to do his transition team. I don't know what he's paying him, but I think we might want to look for a little off-duty work. So he's gonna do this. He's gonna say, he's gonna come in with this community safety. He's gonna come all this thing together. Now, if you remember, when the primaries and then the election, who was donating to Cuomo? The Tisch family. They donated almost $1 million, right? Collectively, I think. So do you think Zohran may have been given a donation and that suddenly made Jessica Tisch the prime candidate? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I had predicted this weeks ago, right? So I think based on the fact of his vision and his plan is pretty much a tailor away from policing and making the NYPD at the bottom of the pecking order, that it would make sense for her to transition because she wasn't a cop. So that's kind of the plus, because even if you get a Abbasi or Ronnie Harrison or someone right now that's in the running for police commissioner, even though I think they're just going to beck and pander to whatever Zohran Mamdani thinks, even if the policy just doesn't make sense or it's dangerous to public safety, they still have that institutionalized culture of the NYPD where Jessica Tisch doesn't. So I think that makes the transition easier. Of course, she's an elite. He's an elite. That makes sense. I think they both coincide and collaborate together. But more importantly, I think the fact that she doesn't have the culture of the job is easy for the transition, go into this community safety, be heard, and all that other crap.
You think that she's going to be easily manipulated into what Zohran wants to do, or do you think she's going to push back a little bit?
That's a great question. So to me, the best prediction of the future is a reflection of the past. So there wasn't much pushback at all when it came to Eric Adams. So I don't see any pushback coming forward either, which is an indication for Zohran Mamdani, right? Because Zohran Mamdani, we've said, and Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams, it's all the same. I don't think there's going to be any pushback. I think she's going to fall right in line.
Yeah. Well, I guess, when we talk about surviving the Zohran, she's the first one that survived so far, right? She survived them. So she made it. I wonder what she's going to do with the mental health, the crisis response, because you talk about be heard, right? And you have it up on the screen right now. You're talking about EMS and fire department and a civilian mental health worker. And right on the screen there in the second paragraph talks about they're only available 16 hours a day. So I don't know, are you going to get them or not? And then that whole thing is integrated into the 911 system. And are they going to, is the dispatchers, I mean, I think you and John had spoken about it, the dispatchers, the responsibility to them, where's the liability lie? So I wonder how she's going to play into that, and if she's going to roll with this also. I mean, it'd be an interesting, it's a fairly new concept for us, right? Because now you're talking about, a response a belated response. So,
Well, what happens to the other 8 hours in a day? You just said it. I mean, 16 hours.
this,
And the fact that the other 8 hours is not even included, why? Why is it split into 2/3 of the day? What happened to the other 8 hours? Is there too much violence? They just don't want to admit that maybe it's hours where there's a propensity for violence, and they don't want to admit it. I mean, clearly this is just an experimental plan, and the plan doesn't suit the entire day. I mean, it's laughable at this point.
it really is, because I mean, I guess you have to tell somebody that is going to have an emotionally disruptive time or whatever, that they can only do it between the hours of 0800 in the morning and 2400. If they do it on the late tour, and I'm just assuming that they don't cover the late tour, that what happens? What happens then? I guess then of course it falls back on the police response. And then I question, is there a liability to the police then that respond on the different tour, that, oh, you responded, and God forbid they had to use physical force, or they had to use deadly physical force? Why did you come, and why didn't a social worker come? What was the reasoning? Well, they weren't available. Why? So I don't know. There's a lot of questions out there, right? I mean, we'll have to see how this plays out.
Well, before we even get into this 9/11 response, before we talk about just complete failures and force, let's talk about this idiot sergeant. Here you go. Here's a guy who decided to impersonate ICE to actually accomplish a mission. What are your thoughts on this guy? NYPD,
Yeah.
to me, it's another scandal, scandal after scandal. But it turns out his name is Islam. He's Islamic during this time. It's quite interesting, especially Zohran Mamdani is going to be the mayor. What are your thoughts on this idiot?
Nah, man, I was shocked when I saw it. I mean, like, clearly, right, there was some sort of he was engaged in some relationship, and I guess the woman didn't fall for him, and it looks like he called ICE, or pretended to be the ICE agent himself. He didn't even call ICE, right? He pretended to be an ICE agent, and then he tells them to report to the ICE office. Can you imagine that? I don't know what he was thinking, but yeah, and he's a sergeant, no less, right? I mean, I mean, geez, I don't know, man. That's crazy.
I mean, to me, he took advantage of the fact that ICE is a major player right now when it comes to control and any opposition we see in law enforcement right now. It's just laughable at this point. Absolutely ridiculous. Hey, John's on the chat right now. He said,
Yes.
I heard he's a great guy. He only writes 20 CDs a month. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And John, he doesn't drink. Nobody drinks coffee out on the post. There's no coffee drinkers at all. So he's a top sergeant right there. I don't know.
Speaking about ICE, what do you think about Zohran pushing back on Donald Trump?
Rather than fleeing
Yeah,
from it, we can respond to all.
He pushed back, but and that was the night he took his acceptance speech, right? So if you want to play that a little bit, let's hear what he says. But then I think he does a little bit of a 180 later on, right? In fact, I think a lot of his policies he's doing a 180 on. But yeah, you want to throw that up and play
that's
it?
great. I'm glad you point that out. We're starting to see him tail back from the policies and actual true words that has come out of his mouth, right? The rhetoric that he's put out about the police, about them being racist, about them pretty much being useless. We do see, I wouldn't say it's a complete 180, but we do see a change right now while he's transitioning, obviously just to get people on board. But yeah, let's go to the videotape. Let's do it.
Oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Before we go any further, what are your thoughts on this acceptance speech, and how does that resonate to New Yorkers? And do you think that transitions to any message to the NYPD leadership, especially the leadership that's there right now, including Jessica Tisch, who's going to stay on as the police commissioner? I mean, to me, there's a lot of messaging in what he's saying in this short segment.
I question whether or not he really means any of it, because is he just saying the rhetoric so that the people that voted for him, the things that he said during the campaign that he promised he would do, is this something that that crowd wanted to hear that night? Because we know, if you remember, when ICE was doing their enforcement on Canal Street, and there were no cops around, right? So obviously somebody tipped off the NYPD, whether it was, the PC sent something down, whatever it is. But why all of a sudden, there's no cops even to help those ICE officers? And then, his rhetoric is just to me is just like trying to pacify the people that are there. And now he comes to the realization that, you know what, I can't do this without help from other people. So that's why I say I think some of the things that he talks about, or he did promise, he's not going to come through. And I think you guys had mentioned that, like, so, and I know you and John speak about it all the time. A lot of the things that he said is already some of the stuff that Adams has been trying to do, and it doesn't work, right? So I think he's probably full of crap. He's not he's just giving the rhetoric that he wants people to believe.
I think Tom Joyce and RDV called it right here. Tom Joyce says, when they go low, we go high. Absolutely. And yeah. RDV says, well, now he has to kiss the Trump ring. Yeah. Absolutely right.
Absolutely.
I know Trump said he would cut off some federal funding, but I think it's virtually impossible. New York City gets, I think it's more than 60% of all federal funding for the entire country. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? That would be virtually impossible. Do you see some type of compromise coming? What do you see? Do you think Trump's going to come to New York? What do you see as far as the relationship with Zohran Mamdani and Trump?
Yeah, so I definitely see that, Trump makes those statements. And if you notice, a lot of times Trump will make statements, and sometimes he throws things out just to shake the can a little bit, I don't think he would, and I don't even know if he could do it legitimately, like, cut off federal funding, cut off counterterrorism funding. He has ties here, right? So he has relationship with people. He has, companies he's worked with, family here. I think that was just a little bit of rhetoric on his side, maybe just to try to shake it up a little bit. So, and, he does have big ties to New York. So, and he doesn't want to see it fail. When we talk about the center, the capital of the world, right? We talk about the greatest city in the world, the economic center. If that fails, a lot of other things are going to fail. So I think he just throws that out there. I think they will definitely come to terms. I think that there's also people that they're gonna have to keep their pride, though. The two guys have a lot of pride. They're not going to want to bow down and say something. So it's going to have to be one of those agreements where they both win. Well, he said this and I compromise. So we'll see. We'll see if Trump has the art of the deal with this. So. We'll see how it goes. I mean, what's your thought? What do you think how it's going to go?
I think Modern Samurai hits it. Modern Samurai, how you doing, brother? Great friend to the chat here. He says no one wants to see New York City fail, so I'm sure he will get some help, but it will have limits. Yeah, listen, I know, and that's kind of like the same rhetoric we heard from Eric Adams. He's the pilot. People should wish him, to be able to land the plane. It's kind of the same rhetoric. Yes, we don't want New York City to fail. But with Zohran Mamdani, it's just a continuation of what we've had the past now 12 years, with former Mayor Bill de Blasio going into Eric Adams and now Zohran Mamdani. And to me, it's been the same level playing field. Nothing changes. They're all radical, and they all have insane ideas, and their vision is completely anti-police, and it's just dangerous to public safety. And I think his messaging to the people is that, well, he's the man in charge right now. And his policy, whether it's right or wrong, it's his way or no way.
Yeah, he's going to try to show that, you elected me as mayor, and now I'm going to take over, and I'm going to fight who I have to fight. But I think there's going to be serious compromise, because the survival of the city, he has to realize that, I know this election is far away, but his his legacy, his future depends on how well he does it. So I think there's a lot to be said, and we'll see how each of them react with each other. If Trump can come to compromise with other people, I think this is a place where he can definitely come and compromise, and I think Zohran will definitely give in too. He's also getting pushed back from Hochul, right? I mean, you already heard Hochul saying, "Oh, you're not going to get free buses. You can't do this. You can't do that. Oh, you can't raise the taxes on the rich. We're going to drive all these people out." So I think there's a lot of compromise to happen. So
Well, let's see what else he has to say.
We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
I think there's a lot of messaging in there. Like, what are your thoughts? I mean, to me, immediately, I think it was Sleepy Joe called it out here. I think it's Sleepy Joe. Let me see these comments. Sleepy Joe says, "Rest in peace, landlords." Absolutely. What do you think this does to the housing market? For one, you're right. We're getting pushback from Hochul, which I think is a big show. Can he actually pass this stuff? And what does it do to the city? What happens to small businesses? And what happens to the rich and the elites? Where do they go?
Yeah. Well, you know what's going to happen. I'll tell you what. I know people that own some property in Brooklyn and stuff, and have big rentals and stuff. You know what's going to happen? It's going to be easier for them to not fix up an apartment, because there was a whole thing with Cuomo did. I don't know if you're aware of it. Cuomo did something where there was a certain amount of money back he could get if you fixed up an apartment. You could get so much back, and then Cuomo lowered it and made it less money to get back. So what happens is a lot of people aren't going to fix up apartments. They're going to leave them vacant, and then they're going to take the loss, right? For the federal loss or whatever, the state loss. And why put people in there? So I think by doing this, he's going to increase the homeless population. He's going to increase the problem that people have trying to get good rent. So I think he's just going to turn this completely around, and the landlords are going to go against him because they're very fearful. When he threatens them, he says he's going to take their building and take their property, which I don't even know if he legally can. But I see that there's going to be some pushback. I don't know. What do you think?
I think Brother Tom says it right here. Tom Joyce says it. Depreciation. Absolutely. Yeah. And think about it, the cost and the incentive. How does this incentivize a landlord, right? Because let's say you are a landlord of a building, rhetorically speaking, let's say you have 30 apartments. What's the incentive for you to fix those apartments up, maintain them, do any renovations when you're going to get subpar rentals? I mean, you can go down to a neighboring state like New Jersey, Connecticut, and get the right rentals, or you can just go down to Florida where rent is booming. Why would you stay in New York City at the point? Why would you even be a landlord under these conditions? I don't even think he could pass it. But if he could, why would anyone incentivize him to be a real estate developer or stay in New York City?
No, you're right. They're not. There won't be any new builds. There won't be any new apartments or anything else. Well, they'll just maintain the ones that they have. And like I said, there's a good possibility that they wouldn't even rent them, because they become problematic. So I think it's just going to only add to the housing crisis. So we'll see. We'll see what he does. What he expects to do. I don't think he's going to win this one. Truthfully, I think landlords are going to go. And I think that was one of the things that pushed a lot of people towards Cuomo or towards Curtis Sliwa, is because of that threat. They knew that if Mamdani got in, they wouldn't survive the Zohran, because they would end up losing what they have. And there's big fear that this, in fact, could happen. And they're going to have to see if they can survive for the next 4 years. So it's going to be difficult.
We speak often on the network, and I know John and I always talk about, is Zohran Mamdani the face of the Democratic Party? And at this point, I think it's kind of solidified. It's validated, verified. He's the face, and he's pretty much a focal point and a voice for the Democratic Party. And so to me, there was a lot of messaging. And at the end of this, he says he's an immigrant, and this is a city of immigrants. So to me, I mean, maybe we can expect the continuation of private contracts with these hotels when it comes to illegal military-age males under Eric Adams. Get the same thing with Zohran Mamdani. And I think that's where we're headed, that this is going to continue as a sanctuary city. And that's where I think we see the polarizing views between him and Donald Trump. And it's all about control. Control it with the sanctuary city. And if Trump moves in with ICE and National Guard, we see control from the right. And that's where I think we're going to see the polarizing opposition. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you have to remember that Trump's a developer in New York, right? His family now runs all these big hotels, big real estate. So there's an vested interest. So, there will be clashing of the heads with those two, especially for that. But I think that's where there might be some major compromise, because I don't think Trump wants to have to deal with any of this and any of his loss or anything else, especially I know he's out of it right now because of the presidential position, but his whole family's still involved, right? Eric and Don are still running the whole organization. So, he has to think about his family too. So, that's where I think there may be some sort of compromise that, I mean, who knows? Maybe that's where he'll say, I'll give you federal funding, but you have to leave the housing market alone. You have to leave the apartments and stuff like that. So, I'm sure there's going to be some negotiation, I would say.
So now we're talking about surviving the Zohran. And I think today it couldn't be more pinnacle of a time when we talk about surviving Zohran Mamdani. And here Eric Adams is still the mayor, and we don't see any pushback. So today there was actual proposal from City Council. So I've been trying to keep up with it. City Council to push forward where CCRB is going to have full access to body-worn camera in real time. So we know under Eric Adams, nothing has changed with CCRB. Neither has it with former Mayor Bill de Blasio. It's only getting worse. And with Zohran Mamdani, now that the City Council has jumped on this and proposed this bill, which I think will pass, what are your thoughts on that? What does that do to the decision-making for a cop? You talk about you were a chief in special operations. I mean, no better should you have the understanding of this, where special operations is operating at high speed. What does this do to the decision-making? What does this do to a cop, to the bosses on decisions when CCRB is watching it real time? And if anybody watched this morning, we had an interview myself and John with Vinny Variano, retired lieutenant, and I thought he gave a great description, talking about here's the guy in CCRB sipping on his latte, right? And he's watching in real time while some cop has to make life or death decisions. And then Zohran Mamdani was to have total 911 reform. I think this is just completely upside down.
Could you imagine that this is going to be a self-generated CCRB? So you could be just talking to somebody and they could tune in, right? And they can say, CCRB can say, hey, we don't like the way you're talking to somebody. We don't like the way you said something. You said a word. You said something that wasn't right. You were disrespectful. You were, discourteous. Whatever the case may be. So to me, this is crazy. The other thing is could you imagine that? And it's not even just ESU. Let's say you're at a TAC meeting, right? You did them, right? I'm sure you did warrants and stuff when you imagine being at a TAC meeting, and all of a sudden some little dweeb from CCRB, like you said, sipping on his coffee, smoking. And he all of a sudden says, you know what? Let me see what Eric Dim's doing. Bloop. punches in, and we're talking about a tactical execution, right? That shouldn't be anything to talk about. That's something that should be would normally be redacted and taken out when it's sent over from the liaison to the CCRB unit. So now we're talking tactics, we're talking anything, and then this guy calls up his friend and says, "Hey, look, this is what they do," and then it starts a chain of events where everybody knows the tactics, knows what they talk about. It just sends it a whole different way. And could you imagine? Let's say you're sitting in the radio car and I'm talking to Eric Dim and say, Eric, well, I'm having problems with my wife. She won't cook for me anymore. She won't do anything. I'm not really sure. And now this guy in CCRB is listening to my conversation. Like I when you guys were talking about it, I said into the chat, I says, if I recall correctly, eavesdropping, right? In New York City, in New York State, is a one-party rule. Somebody has to consent to it. So if the conversation between you and I, and it's unrelated to any police work, we're in a radio car together, how can that person jump in and listen to our private conversation? I understand when you're interacting with an individual that maybe supervisor or anybody else, but to do this just off the cuff like this, I mean, first of all, you're not going to say anything to anybody, right? And I'll just jump real quick. But I told you my son in Texas, right? They have it. They have the body worn camera. They hear it audible. Sometimes if it's not audible, the circle will turn a different color, like a purple. And then if you're with a bunch of cops, they'll be like, "Hey, the boss is watching," or whatever. So you're going to be on your P's and Q's, but you're given some sort of a heads up. Are we even going to give a heads up that somebody from IEB is listening to us? I'm not from IEB, from CCRB is listening to us. I mean, to me, this diminishes your privacy, your tactics, how you respond. I mean, it just totally puts the whole thing in a totally different length. It diminishes everything. Cops will not do anything. I mean, mum's the word, right? At that point, we're going to drive around. Let's go get our coffee, and you're not going to talk. That's it.
Well, Sleepy Joe. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut off the chief. I'm driving you, sir.
Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead. What do you got, Sleepy Joe?
No, Sleepy Joe says, good point, chief. Van full of cops. The conversations are crazy, right? They are.
Yeah.
It's kind of part of your mental health apparatus. You have to have the humor as a cop to an outlet. And people see it as racist and bigots and prejudice and some of the comments that cops make. No, it's cop humor. It's necessary. It's part of your mental health apparatus. We stripped away from that. Speaking of coffee, let's talk about coffee and donuts. Modern Samurai, $25. Thank you, brother. Says a donation to the chief. Get those alligator arms lengthened. Such a great subject. Obviously, our future mayor has never visited housing court. Yeah, that's a great point.
That's true, yeah.
Mess. And to see how bad that place is for landlords and property owners, great show. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a disaster. I mean, probably the last thing you want to be in New York City is a landlord, especially when everything's just stacked against you. I just think no one talks about this, especially the unions. And I've contacted numerous psychologists and psychiatrists. I've tried to find out, is there any data on cops wearing body camera? Like, what are the implications on their mental health? I think there's some serious implications. I don't know, but John said the other day, like paranoia. Absolutely, you're gonna be paranoid. It has to definitely. You're kind of like, you're not acting as a normal reaction. I think you're over policing in a sense, like over articulating, over explaining, over exaggerating, because you're almost acting for the count. I don't think that's good for your health. What are your thoughts on the potential health implications, if any?
Oh yeah, if you think like Hard X Core says, I always assume I'm being recorded, even in the office. That's a good point. And right now you probably should, right? But at a certain time, you have to feel that you have to be comfortable, and you do joke around. Like Modern Samurai said, you do joke around, you do sit in the van, you have fun, and you know what? You can't be ridiculed for that. That's just human nature, right? Everybody does it. That's fun. But to think that every time you say something, you have to go back and think about what you just said. Wait, I was joking around with Eric, and did I say something bad? Because I don't know if they were listening. Do I know when they're listening? What's going to happen to me? I just think that, yeah, that's gonna have an emotional toll on you all the time, right? Hey, could you imagine going to the bathroom? I'm taking a dump, and all of a sudden the camera goes on. I mean, how how do I stop this? You know,
Well,
I don't.
well, well. The reality is actually that was on film, right? Because John and I spoke about this. I think we did a podcast on body worn cameras
Yep.
maybe over 2 years ago, and we said we both anticipated that the body cameras probably in real time the entire day. We weren't buying it that they're only getting it when you actually activate the camera itself. And sure enough, Axon admitted that they have full access to it. So, I mean, no one mentions, right? I mean, think about all the women that have body cameras and they go into the bathroom in private. And the reason why, especially a woman, because a man, at least, for the most part, can access the restroom without having to remove clothing. But
Right.
if you're a female police officer, just to go number one, you have to remove a lot of clothing. So that wasn't mentioned at all. That body camera is going constantly. So I just think that thinking about it now, I think this has some serious implications on someone's psyche. How can this be? How can this be normal? It's just not normal.
Yeah.
What profession do you have a body camera on you at all times with so much oversight? And now the one group that hates you the most, that has complete bias and disdain, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, is going to watch you in real time. And as Vinny Variano said earlier, sipping a latte, ooh, a guy that couldn't lift 135 pounds, speaking of the mayor, is going to tell you how to police. Oh, I wouldn't have shot that guy. Yeah, you wouldn't even get out of your office. These are the same guys. And I know because I had 8 sets of charges in 6 weeks. During COVID, I had to report down to different buildings and sit on a computer to have an investigation with a CCRB investigator. That the kid is sitting at home. And I say kid because most of them were young kids, these CCRB investigators, sitting home. But they're going to critique a police officer that's going to engage in a gun battle, God forbid, or some incident where a police officer's cursing because they're in such a volatile situation. And the guy with purple nails and red hair is going to go, ooh, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, buddy.
No, you're right. I mean, they're going to be sitting there and critiquing you, and what's their experience, right? Did they maybe do 4 years in college? I mean, that's it, right? They've never sat in a radio car. They've never responded to any type of jobs. Like Chronicles of the Collapse says, it is totally ridiculous that you do this. It's nuts. It really is, because you're empowering these people that have no experience, and they're going to be criticizing you. It's just not fair. It's not fair. You've done due diligence. You've worked hard, and now all of a sudden they're just going to be zooming in on you any job or anything, and say, well, that wasn't right and stuff. No, it's crazy. It's off the cuff. I mean, you know what though? I don't see it not going through. I can see where the city council is going to approve this, and it's going to be part of. Now my question to you is, Eric, where are the unions? What are they doing?
To me, when it comes to unions, it's like, where's Waldo? We've been asking the same thing. And you know what? We showed you where the unions were. Last week, a Times article came out where Lou Turco said, hey, we're willing to work with him. You know what? We forget everything. We're willing to work with him, and everything's fine. And he knows good damn well that Zohran Mamdani was on New York's Finest Time and Filter podcast with myself and John, and where he said he would not reinstate any unvaccinated workers that were terminated, such as Marlon Bethel, who did nothing wrong and got no due process. Instead, he doubled down and said he wouldn't reinstate them because they didn't comply with a medical mandate. So what he did to me was the inference is that there will be another scandemic. Not a matter of if, there will be. And the message is you better comply or you're gone. So much for protecting the labor workers, so much for Democratic Socialists. He's an elite. He's completely in opposition to what the Democratic Party has claims that, that people are hardworking people and people that need money need services. He's an elite. He doesn't need any of this. He doesn't care about the working man. He doesn't care about Marlon Bethel. He talks about being an immigrant. Marlon Bethel is quintessential case right here. Terminated, no due process, immigrant who rose to the rank of detective in the NYPD and is super intelligent, is ambitious. That's a huge loss for the NYPD. Huge loss on every angle.
And listen, think about this, right? So the CCRB dweeb, he sits there and he looks at it and says, "Oh, that was bad." So they look at it and they determine that you were disrespectful or you used excessive force, whatever the case may be. Then they prefer charges. And now what happens when that other thing passes where it doesn't go to the PC anymore, that CCRB adjudicates it and determines whether or not the person is guilty. So they're literally like building a case for themselves from the get-go. And as soon as they watched it, they've already determined your guilt. And they're probably going to determine your punishment. So that's gonna add on. Imagine the stress that the poor cops have at that point. That you're thinking like every time you do something. I mean that's hard. We talk about surviving the Zohran. That's going to be hard. That's going to be difficult right there. That's going to take a lot of work.
I think that this is perfect opportunity to segue into this. So we've heard of the name Al-Taheri, which was a former inspector for the NYPD that is in charge in the Hamtramck Police Department in Michigan. Apparently another Islamic community where, we've been saying, listen, right now in the NYPD, most people don't see the end of the road for 20 years. They're looking to leave. And sometimes we're asked, will we take the job or not? But here's someone out there who put up a Facebook post and he's promoting that people should stay. Can you read that Facebook post? We can
get
into that.
Yeah. I like, if I go down to the third article, what I really like is he says, there are voices calling NYPD officers to leave. He says, on the contrary, I encourage the officers to stay in the NYPD. There's no career like it. I recently resigned as the Hamtramck police chief, and after dealing with these roles and facing controversial issue head on, and as they say, no good deed goes unpunished. So he talks about, having false politically and racially motivated allegations, etc. So, but he still says you should stay on the NYPD. And so now, like the segue that we're going to go into, we talk about surviving the Zohran. So when I think it was a couple weeks ago, it might have been in the chat or whatever on one of your shows with John, I said that I would leave the job. I said if I had 5 years on, I would vest out.
I remember you saying that. I remember you said that.
If I had 20 years, I would leave. And then in the chat later on, I remember it was 92 Charlie mentioned something, and GI Bro said something. And then I said to my wife, I says, why don't these people want to leave? Like, why wouldn't you leave? And she goes, you asshole. And because that's a loving term. When she calls me an asshole, it's a loving term.
That sounds like marriage to me.
and I go, yes, dear. And she says, everybody can't leave. Right? There's people that have family in New York City. There's people that, have family on the job. There's people that, have people that they got to take care of. It could be young children. It could be older people, their father or mother or the grandparents. So not everybody can pack up and leave to Florida or go to Houston, Texas or Virginia or wherever else. And I said, you know what? That's an absolute 100% great point. Honey, you're 100% right. Because that's you have to say that. That's the right thing to say. Honey, you're 100% right. And I said, you know what? What can we say then on the podcast? How can we say, how do you survive then? How do you survive the Zohran, right? So I know you and John have spoken about it. What do you think? What's the best way to survive, whether you're in the precinct or in specialty units, what are the things that we can do to survive, and like John says, it's not usually the mayor or a politician that ruins the job. It's other things, so I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? What do you think? You think that, if you have to stay, right? Because there's definitely times where guys are not going to be able to go and you have to stay. What do you do?
I thought it was a great interview today with Vinny Variano, former lieutenant, because you could see the smile on his face talking about the good times that he had. I mean, we were having a great time. It was almost like a 1-2-0 precinct Staten Island reunion. All three of us worked together as rookies in Staten Island, and we all went on different parts of our careers. It's funny. We all ended up as lieutenants. We had very similar careers, and we all had such a good time reminiscing about the amazing times at the job. And it wasn't like people were put on a welcome mat. Actually, some of the bosses were like extremely tough with us, and they were kind of rough with us. But
Mhm.
the camaraderie and the morale was just so amazing. And we had former Mayor Bill de Blasio, and we still had a good time. And the point is, cops don't care who's the mayor. They don't even care who the police commissioner is. What they care about is morale. That's why I often say that morale is this ball that we have to protect. And it's the outside forces that never are an issue. If the morale is so strong, it won't, salary issues, things that are going on won't penetrate. But when morale is soft and weak, salary issues, the conditions start to penetrate that morale and they start to become an issue. Because, when we got on the job in 2004 and 2005, myself, John, and former retired Lieutenant Vinny Variano, we had crappy conditions in the precincts. We had rough bosses. We had plenty of people in the public that hate us. We had media rhetoric, anti-police rhetoric then. But the morale was so strong that these things could not penetrate. And that's why I think it was so substantial. And I made the comparison that you had those veterans on the job that passed the torch, and the veterans on the job and say, hey, kid, listen, it's a pendulum. Things go up and down. It's going to get better. But now, majority of the job having less than 5 years on, they don't have that. They don't have those guys to turn to. What are your thoughts? I mean, you made it to 35 years on the job. And for you now to say, yeah, you understand them saying, I agree. What are your thoughts on that? Because I'm sure you went through a lot of tenure with different mayors and different commissioners. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I totally agree 100%. I'm with you and John. Listen, it wasn't the PC, it wasn't the mayor that you dealt with, right? You never even, all right, once in a while you'd see them on TV. That was it, right? So, yeah, policies came down and you may have adjust a little bit, but it was your squad sergeant, it was your platoon commander, it was the CO and the XO in the precinct that made everything right. I can remember when I was in the 4-1 and my partner and I, Mark Sedgren, we made a good burglary collar. Like it was a whole bunch of rooftop burglaries. It was a pattern. And we actually we saw one night over at the Imperial Bear Company in Hunts Point, we saw somebody up on the roof. So we called in everybody, and we were able to. It was funny because the guy actually he jumped off the roof, and we thought, oh man, we're screwed here now. If he broke his legs when he fell, they're gonna be like, oh, you fucking pushed him, And,
that must have been an oh shit moment.
that was a pucker up, man. I was like, oh my god, and both of us are looking at each other like that guy just jumped down. But we ended up and a funny story afterwards. Like he walked, like he literally landed and ran, and we were able to secure an area and we were able to catch him. And I remember in the precinct cell, he comes up to me and goes, "Hey, my feet be hurting right now." So he's like, I was like, "All right, well, we'll take care of you." But you know what? And that was on midnight. So when the CO came in that morning, it was actually Pinero, Rafael Pinero, when he was the CO of the 4-1. He was a captain. He came in and he, I guess, must have heard about it from the desk officer and went into the arrest processing room. And he said, "Hey, I just want to tell you guys, you did a great job. Thanks a lot. Good, good collar." So just that in itself was enough. That was good, man. We were like, oh, you get recognized or whatever, and it was a positive reinforcement. But it didn't matter. Again, like what do I care what the PC, what policies, what did the mayor say today? That didn't really affect you, right? Your little group, the guys you worked with, your immediate supervisors. Those were the people that made the job, and you laughed, you joked around, right? And then you'd go out and hang out with them and stuff. That was what's good about the job.
I realized, especially today, I had a great time, by the way. Vinny Variano, if you're watching this, brother, he did a great job. He's real charismatic. He's a nice guy, extremely humble. And I thought what was great about it was it made me realize what is ultimately the significant difference from when I started the job, with John and Vinny Variano and yourself when you started a job in comparison till now. And I think that is the point that you nailed it. That politics actually was a big thing during our time and during your time when you first got on, but we didn't realize it.
Right.
The morale was so strong. And after the conversation we had today, I said, I never even realized how political my job was. I was just a good soldier. I was a good Marine doing my job. I didn't realize how political it was until the politics hit me in the face with CCRB. And I saw the change of tide, especially 2018. But now the young kids that get on the job, they're aware of the politics. And that's what I think is completely different. I think the politics has always been there. It's just a matter of how it affects you. Like, here you go. Zohran Mamdani's 911 reform phases is going to change the test program of how we operate, right? And probably when I got on the job, the bosses were tight. The cops were tight. There were veteran cops to guide you the way, but they don't have that now. So now they're actually paying attention to these 911 reforms. So what do you think is the impact of this 911 reform now in comparison to maybe when you came on or I came on in a different era or a different time?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we respond to 911 jobs, we were in charge, right? So I remember, first of all, I remember that you didn't even want to call the sergeant to anything. It was like, don't call the sergeant. You call the senior cop, and you would ask the senior cop the question first. So you were in charge now. Now you're going to say that, okay, or the social workers, they're going to be deployed, and these crisis teams and the mental health experts, are they going to be respond? I mean, look at the bottom paragraph there. According to the Post, right? The Pricey project. You're talking about $605 million from the existing programs, which is Be Heard, which we spoke about earlier, which is a failure, right? It's only it's only done 16 hours or whatever. And then you talk about another $455 million to add to his program. You're talking about $1 billion. So, I mean, you're throwing a lot of money into a program that is going to end up falling back on the cops anyway. But back to your point is that the difference here is, we were in charge, we were able to do things. Now they're going to throw these social workers in there. They're going to throw EMS in there, which I know we have a good rapport with. Who's in charge? Who takes over? So the whole dynamics of the job changes. So it's going to be a little learning experience for a lot of the police officers. You have to adjust. But you know what? That's why I say we talk about surviving in this whole thing is that you will. What does the Marines say? Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
And eat red crayons. Ain't that the
So,
truth?
So you have to, you might have to change a little, right? You might have to adjust a little, but we are resilient. We are police officers, right? We are the NYPD. You can do that. It's done in other municipalities, right? Where they're smaller, where they use these type of groups, and they put them together, and eventually you learn how to deal with it. So I think yes, it will be problematic in the beginning, and we might have to. Unfortunately, it might be a cleanup, right? We might have to clean up some of the mess that's there. That's my concern. Is like, okay, the social workers are there, and it goes bad. Are they stuck inside, or did they get out? Where are they, and what do we have to do? Because now that the dynamics of the whole job changes, so talk to the Midwest.
Yeah, speaking of change, I think this is a major problem here. So John and I had done an article, I would say about 2 years ago. It was published in the Manhattan Magazine, talking about SRG and how necessary it is, and how they actually garner less civilian complaints at a protest. And it was actually debated by the city council and the civilian complaint review board, and it was an epic fail on their part. And we proved based on evidence that the SRG is actually effective and actually gets less complaints at these protests. So anticipating the mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, and we hear a lot of talk about how he won't condemn global intifada. There's still protests going on, constant protests that turn to violence. What are your thoughts on his plan to disband SRG? How does that coincide and affect counterterrorism? How does that affect public safety, especially with your experience in special operations? How does this impact on the everyday cop or just public safety as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, if I was a police officer right now and I had enough time, would I put in for SRG? 100% no, absolutely not. Years ago when they first started SRG, the acronym was SRG, the Strategic Response Group. Some of the cops that transferred over from the task forces into SRG would say, the SRG stands for sounded really good, but it's not. So I wouldn't go into SRG. And I think the idea of him disbanding SRG, he's not looking at the whole picture. SRG, yes, they police demonstrations, and they do a damn good job. When there's a need for an arrest, they do an outstanding job. They go in, they know what to do, right? But that's not the only thing they do, see, because we used to deploy them in high crime areas. So they were omnipresent, a deterrent. They were also a force multiplier for the emergency service unit. If you remember, right, at 345 Park Avenue, SRG was setting up, warm and hot corridors. They were covering after ESU cleared a particular floor. Their function is to hold that floor so that nobody comes up behind the ESU, and that they know that the particular floor is clear. And from all indication that I got, they worked perfectly. Their plan was implemented, and they provided 100% of what they were supposed to do. So he's not looking at the whole picture. He's looking at, the people are mad because they police demonstrations and they don't let you demonstrate, and then they arrest. And so now he says, well, I'm going to get rid of them then. And this to me is another political hack. It's another political promise that is, if he does, which he probably will. I don't know if his Tish will give him pushback on it, because she was pretty happy with the response of SRG on the Park Avenue active shooter. It's going to be detrimental to a lot of the response. When you talk about counterterrorism, they also help with counterterrorism deployment as well. So I mean, it's going to be problematic. So I hope he doesn't, but I think he will. That might be one campaign promise that he thinks he can do, and it's not going to have any implication.
I think it has serious implications on the everyday cop. So we already see the cops right now are burn the candle on both ends. Cops are exhausted, and the manpower has met a mass exodus. And we hear about a potential mass exodus coming with Zohran Mamdani. We're already there. We're already there. The mass exodus has already happened. I don't see it getting any worse. I don't see it getting any better, but I see it kind of leveling off. So the everyday cop, what we're being told with Zohran Mamdani is that the overtime would be cut, but yet the manpower would not be lifted. And if we remove SRG, which is the Strategic Response Group, so for most of our active retired NYPD, they know what that is. Outside agency Strategic Response Group, that is a mobilization force to respond to protests, riots, things of that sort. Any police enthusiast out there, it's an important unit because they're already trained, but they're not assigned to a specific unit or area. They might be assigned to a specific area for deterrence, but they're available if they need to be there mobile. But if there's no SRG, what happens if a protest breaks out and turns into a riot? Where do we get the men and women from to mobilize? Where do we get them from? Do we pull them from the sectors and the precincts? Where do we get them? I mean, you were in special operations, right? What are you thinking right now? What's the apparatus? Where do we pull them from? Who responds? If there's a pro-Palestinian or some anti-Zionist protest that turns violent in Manhattan tomorrow, who responds?
Yeah, and not only that, I'll speak on that in a minute. But you know what? Think about this: you have a special category missing. A young baby, 5 years old or 4 years old, walks off. SRG responds, right? Again, another force multiplier. They look for, they search for that person, right? They'll look for that. So shooting, to secure a scene. You might not have enough personnel in a particular precinct. They're going to respond. Now, without them, what are you going to do? You're going to pull resources from other precincts. And what is that going to do? It's going to drain the response in that particular area. Try to get a 1 in 8 from when I talk about a 1 in 8, I say a sergeant and 8 police officers. Try to get a 1 in 8 from another command, right? Because they're understaffed now and they're not going to be backfilled. So how are you going to get 1 in 8 from another command? You're going to pull a sector from a couple different precincts and bring them all in. It's not going to be the same response, and it's not going to be that cohesive group like SRG. They know what to do. They come in, they respond together, they know where to go. It's not going to be the same way. And you call for another precinct to give you different sector cards. You have different response times and stuff. So it's not going to be it's got to be good. The functions of them is a lot greater than just handling demonstrations. And you're right. If all of a sudden, if this crowd, you could have community affairs officers, right, who are the lead now with the demonstrators. All of a sudden, it gets ugly, and you don't have a strategic response group respond, I don't know who's coming. I can't tell you who. If you think you're going to get people from the precinct, they're going to want to come in and make an arrest, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly right there. And it's going to mean that the demonstrators will be able to take over and do whatever they want, because what are the police going to do? We're going to back up. All right. It's your, whose street? Their street. It's going to be their street. That's what it's going to come down to. So,
yeah, well, Sleepy Joe says social workers. I'm at the point, honestly, I think that he's actually escalating the situation and exacerbating, right? The idea and the policy and the vision that I've heard from Zohran Mamdani is that the NYPD is overloaded with handling crime, and they need to be in a specific area so they can investigate and do their job. So ultimately, the messaging to me is, well, their job is kind of one-dimensional, right? And we know the reality is cops are referees. They're deacons, right? Some days you marry people, you divorce them. You're an attorney. You're everybody, right? As a cop, you are like a multifaceted tool. But what he's saying is, well, cops are at the bottom of the pecking order. He's going to have social workers handle certain situations, and the cops are going to be at the bottom of the pecking order and to handle their job. But now you exacerbate the situation. You escalate it, because if we remove SRG, and if it was task force, if you want to give it another fancy name, basically it's just a mobile field force that is available at any time, right? That can be reassigned or assigned based on a planned event or unplanned event, prepared to handle violence. But if we don't have those cops in place, and now we have to peel them off from specific areas already assigned, we're not prepared. There's no preparation and there's no planning, and we're behind the 8 ball. And to me, once we do that, the situation's already escalated, and it's much harder to diffuse. So this idea that we're going in with soft hands and it's going to be, all hunky-dory, I think this is far worse. It actually makes it more violent for the police officers, and this attributes to more crime.
right. Exactly. You know what? And again, like I said, they all train together. They know what they're doing, right? So that group knows what they're doing. I mean, you like look, what Leo Frappini says, just rename them task force again, and then they do the same thing. Bingo, you disbanded SRG. He's 100%
Leo's
right.
right.
I mean that's the answer right there. That could easily be done. It's no longer a strategic response group, and it'll take a couple of years before somebody realizes that they are the same thing. So, but yeah,
they're gonna come out. They're gonna come out with a new name. They're gonna be the R teams. They respond. They're all gonna have ball gags, pink ball gags, and they're gonna respond and handle it. And
exactly.
Happen, right?
Yeah, just change the patch, right? Give them a new patch, and they're good. We got rid of SRG. There's something else now. But yeah, no, they're important. They're important, but I could see them squeezing out, and unfortunately, I say I wouldn't put in for that, right? If you were a cop in the precinct right now, and that if the CCRB thing comes through, what would you do? What would you do as your response to any of these EDP jobs, any of these things? I mean, how and would you also the second part of that question would you put in for anything inside the you were the special operations lieutenant? Would you and you talk about intrusive policing all the time, and whether it's the CRT teams or whatever, would you want to do that now? Would you want to put yourself in that position, or would you just stay on patrol and answer these calls with social workers that Mamdani says works everywhere else?
Well, the problem is, I'll give you the reality, and I don't mind admitting it. If I was in that setting right now and I was still within the NYPD and I didn't get hit yet like I did before, and I was a target from the Civilian Complaint Review Board, I would have the notion that I thought before that, hey, it won't happen to me. I mean, well, I have good intentions. The police department's going to support me. They're the ones that are sending me out there to get these illegal firearms and do the intrusive police work. That's what I thought. And I'm sure a lot of the cops and supervisors, frontline supervisors like myself are out there thinking the same thing, because they haven't been hit yet. The bug didn't get them, but it could get you. And then you wake up and it's too late. Now, listen, sitting in this position, I can tell you I wouldn't do it. But it's very easy for me to say it now that I'm in this position. And that's why it's important to find some filter this entire network, and our guests and friends that have come on this network and our friends in the chat. We're a support system now to advise these cops to help them, because they don't have that. Nobody told me, hey, listen, you know what? No one's going to protect you. No one's going to help you. They just told me, you know what the big key word I always heard? Me and John talk about this all the time. John, if you're on right now, brother, you got to say ditto. What do we always hear? I think there's two famous lines. I want to cringe when I hear these lines. Be careful. What the hell does that mean? Every CO, hey man, listen, you're getting guns, we love it, but just be careful. I always heard that. Every time I hear "be careful," I want to cringe. What are your thoughts about when you hear those lines? NYPD active retired, know exactly what I'm talking about. Any outside agency, be careful. I don't know if your boss will tell you the same thing, but what are your thoughts on that?
So to me, be careful means that when you get jammed up, that I can go up to you and say, Eric, I told you to be careful. What did you do? You know, it's just like it's like a little bit of a, I got it. And what it is I know the risk, right? Because I did it. I know the risk, and I was lucky. I didn't get the CCRBs that you got. I didn't get, I didn't get the charges or anything else. So, but I always consider myself lucky, right? So, but I know the risk. So that when you tell somebody to be careful, it's basically saying, I really appreciate what you're doing. You're doing a great job, but I know it could backfire any minute. So all I'm asking you to do is be careful, because at any given moment, this thing could backfire, and unfortunately, the tiger is going to get you, and I can't protect you. That's what I think that statement means.
I feel like every time, I realize it now, and especially obviously once I had 8 sets of charges doing from CCRB. I realized the entire time that I was doing intrusive police work that there was just tripwire in front of me. And every time, I was just barely touching it. But eventually I tripped over that tripwire and I looked around for my support system, and they had already walked over it. They were going away. Hey, buddy, you hit the mine. Too bad. It's like, and I do believe that the NYPD, especially the leadership, kind of anticipates there's going to be casualties along the way. And instead of having a support system where they're going to fight for them, it's kind of like, well, okay, we'll give you a few CCRB and these other agencies that have oversight. We'll give you a couple of civil liabilities, and then you leave the rest alone, rather than just fight for everybody. And that's really a major problem. That's why I used to tell my cops, I would have some debriefings, and I would say, listen, unfortunately, you're the permanent resident at the precinct, and your commanding officer is the guest. Yeah. Because if you get into a situation, he may be supportive of you now, but eventually they're going to move on in their career, and you go to your funeral alone, and they're not going to be there for the investigation. It's maybe they actually want to help you, but they moved on in their careers and out of sight, out of mind.
Listen, it just doesn't end there, though. Even as executives, captain above, they will eat each other up. They will push each other to the wolves. And if something happens, if there's some sort of allegation against one of another captain, that person has leprosy. Nobody will even go near them. Whether or not the person's right or wrong, they're very fearful that they will then be told that, oh, why are you talking to that guy? That guy's being investigated. That guy's being this. That guy did that. They will completely, shun themselves. And the problem is, and I've said this before, and I know Ron has said it too. It's a pretty much dog eat world when it gets to a certain point, and there are no. I mean, it was easy for me because I was in special operations, so I wasn't looking for promotions. I was happy, as I told you. I tell all the time. I was happy as a captain in ESU. I was happy as a pig and poo. Yeah, that was the greatest job I ever had. And I was lucky that I moved into the different positions, the XO of ESU and then the XO of SOD, and got those promotions. But a different animal, right? And so, but you always have to worry about what's going to happen. And the problem is often enough the supervisors don't worry about, and then I'm talking about captains above, don't worry so much about the rank and file that do the work. And there are exceptions, but they care about whether or not what's their next promotion, what's their next position. And that's a big problem, because that's a morale killer too. And if you do that, that's bad. And I'm not saying, Ron was good. Ron would push people. He pushed people forward. He mentored other captains. He mentored a lot of people. So, but you don't see that all the time. My first CO when I was the XO, John Perno, he cared about himself. That's all he cared about. And he threw me to the wall. I always tell the story. I'm the impact captain in the 2-3, and we're going to Comstat. And he goes, Rob, don't say anything that's going to bring me up to the podium. I go, John, you just blew my mind. You're the CO of the 2-3. I'm the XO. I have to talk about stuff. You may be called on the carpet any minute. He didn't want to get up. So, it starts right there, it's crazy. So
what do you do? I mean, listen, the bottom line, we're talking about surviving Zohran Mamdani, right? And look at it going back to former Mayor Bill de Blasio. Cops walk around right now, and it's no longer John Smith from 1960. I mean, they're stacked to the gills with responsibilities of just equipment. I think that's stress enough, right? They got business cards that they have to hand out, and it's not policy. Yeah. Those business cards are law. And I think that's what people have to understand. Cops that are active retired, and I hope that all the active cops know that. Maybe some of them don't. And if you don't, that's okay to admit. But the business card, the actual idea of cops having business cards and handing them out is not a policy. It's actual law. So when the cops don't give that business card, technically they're violating the law. That's a lot of responsibility to have on your head all day. Then we talk about the 58. We talk about just the actual internal pressures of the NYPD that's destroying morale, and ultimately talk about weak leadership. Each mayor, one after another, has tailed away from intrusive police work. The vision is murky. It's cloudy. Cops don't know what their vision is. And now we move into Zohran Mamdani. How does a cop survive in this right now? You're a young cop. You get on the job. You want to do intrusive police work. You want to make arrests to be a cop. And now potentially CCRB might have access in real time to your body camera. You have oversight from the Department of Investigations. You have an Internal Affairs, Selective Affairs Bureau that if you're part of Tier 3 general population, that ultimately they'll be looking at you. And you're in an environment where cops are overexhausted. Manpower is not increasing. SRG is going to be removed. You got these Q teams that you might be a part of. Now you're going to deal with social workers. Who decides who's in charge, who's not, who's going to be? You have Be Heard. How do you survive? And you said, right? Some are saying go, but how do you survive?
Yeah, no. If I was staying, let's say I had to stay. My wife has a job. My kids go to school. I'm not going to uproot my whole family. I'm going to stay. So I'm going to adjust. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to have to improvise, right? I'm going to do what a Marine does, right? And I will overcome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, listen, I can't do that intrusive policing anymore because I don't know when CCRB is going to jump in. I don't know whether the police commissioner is going to have authority to say that I'm not going to be terminated. So there's a lot of these internal factors, and I'm not even worried about Zohran at this point. That doesn't matter. I'm worried about internally right now where I'm going to be. So what I'm going to do is I will be, like QCB says, I will be reactive and not proactive. I will respond to 911 calls. I will make those family arrests, family disputes, those family fights. I will make those arrests when necessary. And that's all I will do. I will respond to Radio Run. If Macy's is holding one, or CVS is holding one, I got a collar, right? But am I jumping out of the car and tossing somebody on the side of the street? No, I have to adjust. Is crime going to go up? Yes, it will. But I have to remember, we have to survive too. You have to survive. If you're out there, you have to protect yourself. So what I'm saying, if you're going to stay, readjust your attitude, your procedures, readjust your feelings, and be more of a reactive force. Like I've said in the past, I've never seen somebody get charges or fired or a CD for taking a 61. So you say you take a 61, you take a complaint report, right? That's what 61 is. It's a complaint report for the NYPD. You go there, I take a complaint report. That's it. I remember, and here's the funny thing is, like, I remember cops when I first got on, they would spend 20 minutes trying to talk somebody out of taking a complaint report. When I would say, you could have taken the complaint report in 5 minutes and been 98 rather than spend 20 minutes trying to talk the person out. So yes, I think if I'm staying, and again, I had a successful career. I was happy within the NYPD. I enjoyed it. And I forget who said it earlier. I don't know if it was Hard X Core said something about it's a wave, and I totally agree. The wave goes in, the wave comes out. You just got to surf it. You got to stay afloat. And if you have to readjust your policing techniques, then readjust. And that would be my suggestion. If I'm in a precinct, I'm going to readjust. I'm going to change what I do, and it's not hard, right?
So ultimately, after having this conversation and the conversations we've had the past couple of days and different episodes, it really dawned on me. And I said to myself, and we were talking about the title of the show, and I was like, Surviving Zohran. I was like, it's actually pretty catchy. It's pretty cool, right? It's actually a pretty cool name, Zohran. Reminds me of that movie with what was his name? Adam Sandler, right?
Yeah.
And nobody says his name right. But maybe realize, is it really Surviving Zohran Mamdani? Or is it surviving the NYPD leadership? And I think that's really what it comes down to, right? Because when we see this administration right now, Eric Adams, it's a complete failure. But why is it a failure for the NYPD? It's because we've been telling you that the NYPD leadership, 2-star, 3-star chiefs, have pandered to the Eric Adams movement, have accepted corruption, have accepted the appearance of propriety, have accepted numerous sexual allegations that have cost the city money. And in that weak leadership emanated throughout the police department and affected the rank and file. So my question for you, and I'm thinking for our friends and listeners, what are your thoughts on this? Is it really surviving Zohran Mamdani, or is it surviving the upper echelon of the police department? Because you got people like John Shell, who forgot he was the chief of department 2 weeks ago. And he's talking about what needs to be done for the morale and the betterment of the police department. Hello, buddy. You were the chief of department 2 weeks ago. So what are your thoughts on that? Is it surviving Zohran Mamdani, or is it surviving the upper echelon of the NYPD? And I get it. Listen, you're a chief. So what are your thoughts? I mean, you could reflect on how you would feel yourself and the position that you would be in.
Right. So I think like I've been in PC briefings with Dermot Shea, with Jimmy O'Neill. And a lot of times the policies set forth from City Hall are then pushed down into those meetings and then filtered down through the department. Point in cases, how many people took the shot, how many accommodation were given out where people don't have to take the shot. That was all discussed in those PC meetings. So, but that doesn't have to be. That's not if I'm a cop on patrol, if I'm a sergeant on patrol, a lieutenant patrol, that's not my concern. My concern is what happens if by the time it filters down, what is the CO looking for? And what do I need to provide to the CO? But again, that has to be adjusted. And you would hope that the CO and the people in the borough would all understand that. Collectively as a group, if they did, there could be pushback. But the problem is again, everybody thinks about for themselves in the next promotion. So, but if in fact, my concern would be internally in the department. I'm not so worried about Zohran and how to survive him. I'm worried about how my upper echelons and my borough chiefs and my COs and everybody, how they're going to react, because they're going to have the most direct implication on what I feel and how I operate. I always say it. I was going to save it for the end, but I always say that people will say when they talk about the job sucks, they suck, they did this, the job did this. Well, you know what? If you're a captain or above, you are the job, right? You are the theys. Change it. All right. There's strength and unity. Pushback. Don't be a weak worm. All right. When there was things that were done, I remember when body-worn cameras came out and they wanted ESU to have them, and there was pushback from the rank and file in ESU. Steve Stephanoskis, great guy, truck 10, still on the job, excellent delegate. They were like, listen, we can give you a list of things why we shouldn't have that. I went up to the chief of department office and I said, these are the reasons why we don't have it. We can't have this in a TAC meeting. We can't have it in this. And there ended up compromise where they would only, wear it at certain things, and they wouldn't wear it at warrants and things like that. Like they wanted you to wear it at a water rescue. I said, where am I going to put this on a water rescue? Is it a water camera? It's not going to work. So there was compromise. I think at the end, I think we lost. They ended up after I had gone there. They threw thousands of things in there and then different stipulations. But for the most part, if don't even know if you could turn it off now. But you have to fight back. You have to push back a little bit. You just can't be the person that's gonna, you can't be a yes man or a yes woman, right? When Vinny was talking this morning, right, about the female in the police academy, right? That she'd given him a hard time about how he was dressed. You're wearing a jacket over, business attire. That you went outside too many times while he's trying to conduct, personal business. And he's following the rules. And then she has the audacity to criticize him when she's going to get promoted. Like she should. I mean, what the hell is that? So I mean,
I think ultimately what Vinny was saying, which I agree with, I don't think he was saying like, "Hey, I wasn't wrong," or she couldn't address
right.
me. It was the manner that she did it, right? Why couldn't he just have a conversation with him? I mean, he's a grown man. Clearly, he's a professional. Treat him like he's an adult and treat him like he's a professional. Professional, say, "Hey, do you have under that jacket? Is there business attire?" And then he could say, "Yeah, I have business attire. Here's my jacket because it's cold." Or, "Hey, you were 5 minutes late. I get it. There's a lot of moving parts, but today's some real important material. Could you just let the guys know I need you here? I just don't want you to miss anything." That's a nice conversation where you're addressing it, but you're being a person, right? We're talking about being
right.
real. But for 5 minutes late, after you had a conversation with a grown man who's a professional lieutenant, you had to call his precinct. That's the part where we're missing the mark. The leadership is ultimate failure. I mean, that's why I say surviving Mamdani. Before we survive Mamdani or Bill de Blasio or Eric Adams, we got to survive the failed leadership of the NYPD.
Right.
And that's where I think we missed the mark. And that's why the comparison till when we got on the job and you got on the job, the morale is different because we had far different leadership and they were tough at you, but I think that at least they cared, right? You could see, like, I didn't even need her name. I said, you know what? I know her. And I don't mean I know her, that name, but I know her because there were many just like that. We saw the tides turn, and that became the norm. And you're right. I say it all the time. People are like, "Oh, the job sucks. The job's dead." What do you mean? Who's the job? The job is people, right? John Shell, Jeffrey Madry, Michael Petrie. That's the job. The guys that actually have the ability, the tangible ability to put their hands on it and to make changes, they're the job. So when we say the job sucks, we're saying people suck.
Yeah. I mean, when Bratton came in the second time, he started this whole re-engineering thing. And, there was a whole group. I had training and stuff. I put together a whole thing. And I had some really great cops that were on, from the police academy to precinct cops, talked about training, everything else. We put a whole explicit report together. It was pretty comprehensive. And you know what happens? A lot of stuff didn't get approved. It's like once we put these things in, I talked about a lot. I'm big on scenario-based training, right? I think you learn better. I could watch a video 1,000 times, but you know what? When I was in ESU, when they put me in the TAC house, and the next thing you know, I got simunitions shooting down at me. It totally changed the dynamics of my training and my thought process. So I think that's so smart to do that. Why don't we have that in every borough? We should have a live training facility in every borough. And instead of going for this borough base where we all used to sit down and, raise your hand, what time's meal, you would actually be engaged. But then there was pushback. Where was the pushback? From the police academy, the executives in the police academy. So the problem is the job doesn't want to change. The executives that are in their spot, they don't want to do any more work. They don't want to do any more change. And that's what was good about ESU and aviation, SRG. We weren't afraid to train, and there used to be what was called trio training for ESU. And that was every Sunday, three ESU trucks would get together and they do a scenario-based training, whether it was rappelling off the Brooklyn Bridge or it was a high-angle rescue, or if it was, looking down in the subway, like a rescue under a train job or whatever. That was done. So, important stuff. But, patrol kind of gets left out. So but you need the people on the job to accept change and push forward. And that's another big problem is they get complacent in their spots. They don't want it. They don't want change. So I think that's important also. So there's a lot that can be done. It's but like you said, we need somebody that's going to be able to do it. And you're right. It's within the job. The job could be made better, but the job has to do it. And it doesn't need the mayor's approval, right? We can do this on our own.
I got to respond to this. I want to know your thoughts too. So, Aria 2456, great friend to the podcast. She's always here. She was actually here in the morning. Thank you so much for being a good friend to the podcast. And she's got some great engagement in the chat. I definitely want to push back on this, though. She says police are paid to take care of the city. If they don't think the city cares about them, doesn't really matter. Well, I think it completely matters, right? Because morale and camaraderie, to me, is probably one of the most important vital tools, right? Because the police are the heart of policing. They are. The reality is those men and women are the heart of policing. And what do you need to have a heart? You need blood pumping, right? In order to have blood pumping, cops need good emotions. They have to feel good about their job. They have to feel desired. They have to feel wanted. And there has to be some sense of gratitude, even though it's a thankless job. So the idea that, well, it doesn't really matter, that doesn't resonate. And that's not going to get you a better employee, right? A cop is an employee. Let's be honest. It's a job. That's not going to get you a better product. That cop has to be, have a sense of fulfillment where they feel like they're wanted and they're desired and the city needs them. But if it's, well, we really don't matter. I mean, what does that do for the mental health apparatus of the cops? And, well, if you think it doesn't matter about their mental health, it does matter because it transposes to what's going on in the street, and it ultimately affects public safety. So the whole thing weaves in together, it comes full circle. What are your thoughts on that comment? I think it's a very interesting comment. I think it's an honest comment. I don't agree with it, but it's honest.
No, it's definitely honest. I know she says later on, and I just saw in the chat that she basically says, "Yes, Eric, I was wrong there." So I think she's admitting to what you're saying. But my take on that particular comment: listen, it doesn't matter if you're a police officer, firefighter, sanitation, you're a barista in Starbucks. It doesn't matter how much you paid, but if people treat you crap and you don't think the boss or the job that you're working for it cares about you, I think you don't want to work there either. I think that's just human nature. So you want to be, you talk about the hierarchy of needs, right? And you talk about basic, food and essentials and stuff. And then when you get up to the top, you talk about more like, that positive type of reinforcement. You need that. And if you don't get that, I think, yeah, you'll stay there, but you're not going to be happy about the work you're doing. You'll take the money, but you're not going to be a productive person because you're not happy. You're just going to drive around. There were guys that I remember in the 4-1, they would drive around and do nothing. And I would used to say, you guys should have just been postmen, because basically you're just postmen with guns driving around doing nothing. You want to be a police officer, you gotta engage a little bit. So, but I think that every job, no matter what you do, you want to be, and you want to be wanted, and you got to be showing that you're wanted, and you got to be get that positive reinforcement when you do a good job. That's important.
I think stay trained up. Hit it back with a great statement, question, response, sort of. So if police are paid to take care of the city, does that include being disrespected, disregarded? Absolutely, absolutely. Disrespected on a daily basis. Cops are extremely vulnerable. Disregarded. Marlon Bethel, completely disregarded. Here was a detective, ambitious, totally disregarded. And shout out to John, at the hearing today. I didn't get a chance to see it, but a couple of people put in the comments that he did a good job. No doubt in my mind, I even have to see it to know that John did a good job. Front and center, he always is. And John has been at the front of this since the beginning. So God bless to him, brother. Seriously. Yeah. I'd like to kind of segue in if it's go with you. I know I'm your driver, so if the GPS is okay. We talked about 911 reform, right? With social workers. It's the most ridiculous thing. And we didn't go too much into it in this episode. We can. But we also talked about the disbanding SRG and how those implications can affect the cop and assignments. But with Zohran Mamdani being our first Muslim mayor for New York City, and we're still in the aftermath of 9/11. We have anti-Zionist, we have pro-Palestinian riots, protests of that sort. How does this affect the counterterrorism apparatus for the NYPD? Coming from special operations, what do you think the implications on counterterrorism? Do you think we'll see some changes in counterterrorism? What should we expect moving forward?
Yeah, so I personally think that you're going to see a pullback on some of the counterterrorism investigations. I think if you remember that Chief Galati, there was a big lawsuit. There was also I forget his name, but he was from the CIA. He was a deputy commissioner. Um, there was some lawsuits on whether or not mosques and certain things were being illegally surveilled. So I could see that is going to be a little pushback from the mayor, and there could be a, maybe some of the the uh, there might be pullback. They might take back from counterterrorism. I don't necessarily see anything coming back from JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force. I think that will be maintained because you want that federal input. But I could see where counterterrorism would pull back a little bit on their investigations. Some of that stuff. I see that. I see it pulling back because the mayor might think that it's overzealous and not necessary at this point. And unfortunately, we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of 9/11 come 2026. So I don't necessarily think it's a good thing to pull back because we promised never to forget, and I would hate to say that we're starting to forget. So what is the old saying? If you forget history, you're destined to repeat it. So that's my concern. That's what I think.
Uh, I gotta say, Hard X Core has kept me entertained today. He says Eric doesn't like me, but I appreciate the love from the chat. I like you, brother. You're a friend to the podcast. I even like my haters. So, but I think you made a good point. So, being the first Muslim mayor elect for New York City, Zohran Mamdani, I think it kind of continues on with this DEI movement. I do anticipate when we talk about diversity, right? We had the Chocolate administration. I do believe that we're going to see a change in diversity, and I anticipate to be top heavy with Muslim and Islamic. And I have no issue if they're the most suitable. God bless. I have a lot of Muslim friends. I have no issues, but let's not put people there just because they're Muslim. Does that change the counterterrorism apparatus? Right? We still have extreme amount of threats in New York City, and some of them come from potential Muslim locations, communities, and also Islamic. Are all Islamic and Muslim terrorists? Absolutely not. But we do have investigations. We do have units in intelligence that actually go to camps upstate New York where there's a lot of Muslim and Islamic people that go through some type of training. So that's part of surveillance. Will the surveillance change? Because will the leadership in counterterrorism and Joint Terrorist Task Force, as you spoke before, there may be some pushback or some opposition where they may feel, well, if they're doing this type of surveillance, is it kind of anti-Islamic? Is it anti-Muslim? Is it an insult to the mayor? These things may be anticipated. It could affect counterterrorism. I do anticipate that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Reed brings up the name I was looking for was David Cohen. He was a former CIA and became a deputy commissioner under Kelly. That I know there were lawsuits later on about the surveillance. So I definitely feel that under the new administration there will be a little pushback, and there will be a little bit of I would say mayoral control over what and who gets investigated. And I would just hope that the people that are in those units, that they continue to do a thorough investigation. That's all we look. Whatever leads come in, right? Because they work off of leads. So you talk about leads coming in and airing it out, seeing what it is, maybe interviews, that they continue to do it, and that there is no mayoral control of who and what should be investigated. Everything that comes up still should be investigated. So.
Obviously, I mean, we didn't get to go into this, but I think we should talk about this. Obviously, with our line of work, our experience, this idea of being selected with 911 dispatch and kind of them having them being able to quarterback what type of response will be to calls. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I think it's extremely dangerous for the public. I think that every call is pretty much a mystery. I mean, for the most part, I've had situations where the person that called 911, which we would consider complainant, turned out to be my perpetrator. So we never know what's going on behind closed doors. And I don't believe there's a such thing as a non-violent call. Just as I always say, I don't believe there's a such thing as a non-lethal tool. All items that you use, tools, or even your fist, could be deadly in a physical force, hands-on situation. But I also believe any situation could turn violent. A simple car accident, a fender bender, that can get violent. Two neighbors, arguing over a piece of grass or a garbage chute in a building could turn violent. I believe every call has potential for violence, and it puts the cops in a much vulnerable situation where the cops have to respond after a social worker gets themselves into a pickle. They've now already went into a heightened situation. So what are your thoughts on potentially 911 handing the ball, them quarterbacking the situation, and making decisions on deployment? What does this do? What are the implications? What could this look like, if anything?
So 911 calls, right? You have the 911 operator taking the information. I can't tell you how many times you responded to a job and it was totally different than what the 911 operator says. It could have been a family dispute, but it's a shooting. It could have been a noise complaint, but it's a family dispute. So the information that 911 operator gets is only as good as the information that the complainant is providing them, right? So, and then we're asking a 911 operator to make a call on whether or not it should be a police response or should it be response from maybe EMS and social workers or just social workers. So I mean, it's a dynamic call, and you know, it really is crazy that they're gonna be able to do that. And then when they do send somebody to that call, when they send the social worker first of all, I don't know where they're going to get the social workers from. I don't really know what social worker really want to do. What is their response time for the social worker? How are they getting there? Are they using lights and sirens? Are they even the area? How many of them are there working in a particular area? Okay, Staten Island's pretty big. I mean, how many people are we going to have social workers driving around? And then once they get there and it gets ugly, what's their communication to us? How do they communicate to patrol and say, "Help, I need help"? Are they calling 911 and saying, "Hey, we need help"? Or are they using the department radio? And then when it becomes a hostage job, then what? I mean, I think we've set up a recipe for disaster. I don't, like I've said before in the past, I respond to with ESU, I respond to a lot of mostly disturbed person jobs. And I think police officers in general, and I think that the emergency service unit handle emotionally disturbed people in the best way that they can, and minimal amount of injuries to the to the EDPs and minimal injuries to the MOS. And I just think this is gonna exacerbate things. I think it's gonna be bad. And then you know what? Nobody wants to come into the job that's already gone to shit, right? So, and that's what I feel. You're introducing people that it could turn ugly fast and don't have the resources and the capabilities. Yeah. Right. So, quick example: you and we respond to an EDP. We're in the job. Okay, it's starting to go bad. Central, give me an 85. Give me a couple sectors 85. The Army's coming, right? But what does the social worker do? I need additional social workers. I mean, it's not going to work. So I'm totally against this whole program. I was part of that pilot program in Staten Island when they started that. It was terrible. It never worked. So I just think it's going to be it is going to be a really bad. So I don't know what's your thoughts. I mean, obviously you've gone on EDP jobs and you've handled things, right? So I mean, what's your thought?
So I'd say almost every interaction. Nothing is pretty much synonymous, right? But I think almost every interaction with the NYPD, someone's emotionally disturbed. No one walks. I used to always tell the cops this all the time, right? If you're the telephone switchboard operator or your intake for the day, you have to anticipate screaming and yelling. Nobody walks into a precinct because they're having a good day. Right? I can't think. I mean, maybe there are some, I don't know. But most people, when they walk into a precinct, it's because probably the worst day of their lives. They walk into a precinct because they're having a bad day, not because they're having a good day. Sorry, nobody wants to visit you. You're not that good looking. Or, but for the most part, when someone walks to a precinct, it's the worst day of their life. So situation's already heightened. Someone's involved in a domestic situation, a car accident, a neighbor dispute, anything. They trip and fall. They're emotionally disturbed, right? They're having something that impeded their day. It changed the trajectory of their day. We're all become emotionally disturbed, right? If we had an issue right now and my stalling went down and we had 5 minutes, God forbid, and we couldn't figure it out, we'd be emotionally disturbed. Like, shit, what do we do? Right? So all calls are emotionally disturbed. It's just to what extent. It doesn't mean they're mentally ill, but everyone's going through some emotional battle. And every day, the best people are going through some type of form of conflict. We all are. I think every day, all of us are going through some form of conflict. So this idea that social workers are going to handle the amount of situations that Zohran Mamdani has his vision for, and many of the city council workers that are backing him are just, you have to ask yourselves, like, these are intelligent people. They're college educated. Like, where do these people, are they intentionally trying to screw things up? I mean, they have to be aware that some of the stuff they say just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It defies logic. And the reality is, while social workers may be a supplemental tool, to me, the hierarchy and top of the pecking order is still the human element, and that is your good old-fashioned alpha male and alpha female police officer. And without that, I think the whole thing falls apart, and that's where we go into AI and robotics and taking over, and unfortunately, get into that real dystopian society. This whole Marxism changeover, which could be coming.
Yeah, I just think it has a recipe for disaster completely. I just think that, these social workers are just going to be problematic, whether they respond or don't respond. Like we looked under, it was under Thrive NYC, right? They're talking about, 600 and something $1 million. I mean, what are the results? How are we seeing if this program works? And we're pushing it even forward. So I think it has a recipe for disaster. It's not going to work. And again, are they going to work 16 hours? Are they working 24 hours? I love the civilians on the job, and I know that they're not paid a lot. The PAAs, the police administrative aides, and when it was slow, you could see them. They were sleeping at the TS, or they were sleeping at the 124 room, the complaint room, and rightfully so. It was boring or whatever. But are you gonna have a bunch of social workers that are sleeping on the late tour? Or are they gonna respond? I don't know. All I'm saying is that if it works, why change it? When you look at statistically and the amount of EDP jobs, and it's usually close to 200,000 between. I think it may have gone down, dipped a little bit between 170,000 to 200,000 a year. I think we handle them pretty well, and you talk about, there may be one or two where we use deadly physical force, and when you look at it, it's justifiable. Somebody's coming at you with a knife or a weapon. So, okay, let's say the cops weren't there, and this person was emotionally disturbed and picked up a scissors like we saw in the apartment or whatever. What happens then? Oh, guess what? A social worker gets stabbed in the chest with a pair of scissors. Then what they're going to ask? Where were the cops? Right? So it's gonna turn back on us. So I don't know. To me, it just has a recipe disaster. I just think if you are on the job and you're going to respond to one of these things when the change is implemented, you need to make sure that you're safe and respond. And ESU terminology was always slow the job down. Please slow it down. When you get there, you got to slow it down, and you got to watch your approach, because whatever happened in that apartment could easily morph out into the hallway, just like we saw the member of the service from the 7-3 get shot in the hallway when somebody just jumped out of their apartment. So it's a scary situation, but I think you'll be able to, you'll have to adapt. You'll have to look at change and be careful.
Well, I think ultimately, I think that this is going to be one of those things I think is really honestly is going to last one day, maybe a couple days at the most, because Eric Adams said, "Oh, you know what? I used to do transit solo pulse by myself. I didn't even know he left the desk." And when they tried to put solo pulse out there with the NYPD, it lasted not even one day, right?
Right.
Well, I think this is going to be the same thing. After a couple of social workers respond to a couple of calls and they get to see the silver linings and what's underneath the surface in New York City, they go, "Oh my God." And now you see from a different angle, like, whoo, thank God for those cops, right? Thank God for those men and women that go out there and do that job. That's what they're going to be saying. Because if not, you're going to need, as they said in the movie First Blood, what did Troutman say? If you remember the movie with Sylvester Stallone is out in the woods and he tells Brian Dennehy, he's like, "Yeah, what about your boy?" He says, "You're going to need a lot of body bags." That's what they're going to need, right? These social workers are going to need body bags. It's the reality, right? The cops do an amazing job. And, you know, I think this is terrible, and I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but maybe this will bring some more respect for the police department. I think this is going to have a complete reverse effect than what Mamdani plans. This idea that, depicting what crimes are not violent. I mean, they've went as far, and I say they, that's the Democratic Party, which includes Tiffany Caban and Zohran Mamdani, as far to say that burglary is not a violent crime. Now, if you enter my domain, that's a violent crime. Burglary is a very serious crime. That's the sanctity of your home. Someone went in and touched your sheets and touched your bed. That's disgusting. It's terrible. That's a complete violation of your privacy and your personal space. To me, that is violent. But for some Democratic socialists to say that's not a violent crime, and we're going to have a social worker respond to a burglary, you know what? Have at it. Good luck.
Yeah, no. I mean, you start doing that, you're I don't know, you diminish the police officers completely, and you're putting everybody in harm's way. And I don't know if you remember that there was a social worker in Westchester County that went to the wrong apartment, and she was killed. She was murdered by that person. So I hope they will understand the risk too, because it's not it's not an easy job. I mean, they're not able to defend themselves like police officers are. So they really have to be careful. But yeah, no, I mean, maybe they'll drive around with body bags in the car. Who knows? I don't know. It's a scary situation, So.
It is scary, but I tell you what, it's time. It's time. Ask an executive. You know what? I'm the executive driver today, so if you want to ask the driver a question, but ask an executive any question. I think this is an amazing segment the executive perspective has, because executives in the NYPD or any other administration or agency in law enforcement are not really tangible. And if you have conversations, they're kind of short-lived and at the surface. So here's an opportunity. If you have any questions for Rob, I know I'm not an executive. If you want to ask me any questions, have at it. So what do we got? Any questions? Anything you got? Any emails?
No, I didn't get any emails, but I did see something that I think what Modern Samurai asked about social workers wearing body worn cameras. That would be interesting, right? Should they? Right? Why we're asking police officers to wear body worn cameras? Why wouldn't they wear body worn cameras? You know who I really love to see wear body worn cameras, and that we should be able to zoom in live is a doctor. Doctors do operations. They do things all the time. They're subject to malpractice, but we don't see them doing an operation. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts on the social workers? You think the social workers should wear body worn cameras too? I mean, they're doing police work, right?
Absolutely. If the police officers have to wear body cameras, anyone that's doing any type of police apparatus, and according to Zohran Mamdani, the plan is part of policing. The community safety team, community safety plan is part of policing. Absolutely, they should don a body camera. Police officers have to wear it, so should they. If CCRB is going to watch in real time, I want them watching social workers too.
I think TC was joking around, but I like his comment. It says, when social workers respond, will there be an Angelica music playing? Will it be melancholy so they can calm the people down? It could happen. But Aria 2456, she has Be Heard program. Is it same or different from what Madami recommends? What's your thought on that?
You know what? I think the idea as being a supplemental tool could be possible, right? I'm all for having tools and supplement the police department. The problem that I have with this Be Heard idea, it falls flat in the face, but it's supposed to be at the top of the pecking order, and it puts the police at the bottom of it. So that's where I have a problem. If it wants to be a supplemental tool, I have no problem working with social workers. But what does this look like? Let's say this whole Be Heard response, well, social workers. I mean, if a social worker responds to a call, does a sector car wait like a block away, like kind of hunch over, like, hey, they won't see us, but if they need us, we're a block away. I mean, reality, is that what it looks like? What are you thinking? That's what I've been kind of envisioning. Like the social workers are at this call and the cops are a block away. You know, maybe some foot cops and they're hiding behind a bush. Well, I hope the people don't see us because it's supposed to be social workers, but we're here if they need us. I don't know. It's funny.
They got binoculars. They're looking at binoculars. They're checking the job out from a distance. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to respond. Believe me, you know. And yeah, are they even going to be close? I don't know. You know what? I don't see why. We do have a co-response team that for a while fell under the Special Operations Division. I think it went back under the Deputy Commissioner of Collaborative Policing, but that wasn't a bad thing. I mean, you have, but they did respond to follow-up, so they didn't respond to actual 911 jobs. So if there was somebody that was had a high propensity of being an EDP, they would go back to their house unannounced with the social workers and try to engage that person and see how things are going. You know, and then they could do referrals to special, you know, things within the city that they could, you know, help the person. So, I mean, that's not a bad idea, but I don't see why we can't do and I know probably as a police officer, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to drive around with two social workers in the back of my car or even a single social worker. But you know, to respond with them, I think that would, to me, make more sense. So that if something got bad, you know, you're not like you said, you know, pulling out the body bags and putting social workers in body bags. So, but that's my thought. You know,
Well, who's in charge, right? If and that's been my question, right? Because who's
yeah.
in charge? If it's the cops with social workers responding together, some type of team effort, who's in charge? Like, who makes a what call? Like, oh, you know, I'm going to take out my taser. No, the social worker is going to take out their lightsaber. You know, like this is Star Wars. Like, who's in charge? I mean, this is a joke. What do you think about this question? I'm kind of curious. I mean, we talked about Tish. She's staying on. Hard X Core, good friend to the podcast. You deserve a question. Says, do you guys think Tish makes it a year? What do you think about that?
So it's my understanding that she doesn't get anything from the city. That
Zero.
she zero. So what does she make in all her little investments and stuff? I don't know. But if her family can donate $1 million to Erica Adams' campaign, I think they're doing pretty well. And truthfully, whatever money she makes, she put a better investment in the Giants because the way they've been playing, you know, they just fired their head coach. They need a little help there. So I think she needs to reinvest something because I can't watch these Sunday games anymore. They're killing me, man.
I say she doesn't make it a year. I think that she's going to make it about 3-4 months before they pull in a first Muslim police commissioner. That's my anticipation. I'm sure it's going to be Abbasi or maybe Alteri or maybe someone else, but I anticipate she's there for the transition because he's all over the place right now with different policies and different visions, especially if they're going to move this community safety apparatus. You can't change too many things. So I think leaving Jessica Tish in place for a couple of months, you know, as I said earlier on, she's not a cop, so she's not part of the culture. I think I anticipate she won't be there a year, and then we'll see our first Muslim police commissioner. That's my anticipation. I have no problem with it as long as they're the most suitable. God bless.
Yeah. GI Bro, great question. I was actually going to bring that up, right? Because he asks right after Hard X Core asked that question. There's one right underneath him at 1849. He says, "Is it worth to take the captain's test? It seems the captains are treated like shit now." So I will tell you, absolutely. I always say take whatever next test you can. If you're a police officer or a detective, take the sergeant's exam. If you're a lieutenant, Or if you're a sergeant, take the lieutenant's exam. If you are a lieutenant, take the captain's exam. I say that because it's a good way. I think Vinny mentioned it earlier. It's a way to get your better pay, right? It's a promotion. You get a little bit more money. Yes, captains do get treated like crap. They always have been treated like crap, in my opinion. So with Comstat, and they try to break you down there. They yell at you, but there are spots, and I'll say if you can become a captain in ESU, that's a great spot. There's captains in narcotics. There's captains all over. So I just think you have to try. Put yourself forward. And I believe they just announced that the captain's test is coming up. I think it's next year or something. I think George Misford put on his website or something that it was coming up. So I think if you're a lieutenant, yeah, you got to study and you got to try. So that's my opinion. What do you think? I mean, Eric, you took the captain's exam. You would have been a captain if the job didn't screw you. But
John Shell says never a captain. I think it's a personal decision. Each person tailored to their life. So, for instance, I have no problem. There are some amazing police officers are super intelligent. I knew police officers that went to Harvard. They wrote books, and they never took any tests to move up because they had maybe they had side businesses. It just didn't work out for them. They didn't want to change in life because the way it worked out in their lives. Or maybe some guys I knew, not to sound funny, they had rich wives, they had rich families. They didn't need to make that move, and they were super intelligent. So I think it's a personal decision. Some guys love being a lieutenant. They love where they're at. They don't want that change. But ultimately, I think if you don't have that type of lifestyle or where you have a side business, and the decision is, well, do I move up in rank because lieutenant's a better rank or money? If it's just that case, always take the bet, always take the rank, always move up. Because as Ron says, and I agree with him, if you want to have any change or have any say, you want to be a mouthpiece, you have to move up as far as you can in rank. So if the money is not an issue for you, you move up in rank. Absolutely.
That's a great point. I'll say spot on. It was on. And you're right, because there were guys in ESU that were very smart. I would say, listen, you got to take the sergeant exam. And they'd be like, no, I'm good right where I am. I'm happy. I love the position I'm in. So you're absolutely right. It's definitely an individual decision. And you weigh all your options. I always say, though, this is what I always say. Take it. Take the test. You don't have to take the promotion. You can decline. So take it, and then that gives you the option. Okay? Because a lot of good detectives, good police officers went into and became sergeants and lieutenants, got promoted, and then they were brought back to ESU because that's how good they were. We knew they were good, right? So we wanted them back. They did 6 months, maybe a year on patrol, and then they came back. So that's why I say always take it, and then you have the option whether or not you want to take the test, and you have the option to take the promotion. That's up to you. But yeah, absolutely.
I can tell you what, I don't know who TC is, but I think TC just revealed himself. He says, I remember when Eric was briefly a corporal. So definitely from the 112 precinct, because what happened was, my dumb luck in the NYPD, February 2009, I got sent to BMOC. I'm sorry, January 2009, I got sent to BMOC, which was your basic module officer course to be a sergeant. And halfway through, they told us due to budget cuts, they can't promote us. So we finished,
oh my God.
We finished, and then we went back to the 112 precinct or whatever precinct you came from. And so they gave me corporal chevrons. They glued it to my locker, and I had to wait 5 weeks till I got promoted.
That's terrible.
That was
man.
my career. Any more questions? What do we got here? We got some good
ones. I see Area 2456.
She's on it today.
1849. She says, "What's the number one improvement you would do to help the NYPD work better, morale, etc.?"
Question.
That's a good question. Yeah. What would you do? You're promoted. I just gave you a field promotion. You're deputy inspector.
Every 3-star chief and 2-star chief right now. I'm sorry, they got to go. They got to go. We complete overhaul because we talk about the job needs change. And who's the job is the leadership. We change the leadership right away. Second thing I would do to increase morale is get rid of this basic module officer course. And I know Ron cringes when I say this. He doesn't agree with me. All you need is a 3-day leadership course. Send the cops to West Point or some type of place where they get a real leadership training for 3 days. 3 days of full leadership training, then send them to the precinct where they could do their job. Leadership is powerful, far more than intelligence. Leadership of knowing who's in and around you and how to use those people and resources and how to treat people fairly, that's powerful. And in 3 days, you can learn that. A month listen to seminars is a waste of time. It's cost ineffective. I think that would increase morale right away. And of course, leadership.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I also say that, you need input from the police, the boots on the ground, the police officers, the cops, the sergeants. You need input, and there needs to be a way to get that input and filter through it and see what if there is necessary change, if there's things that need to bring morale up. What are we doing out there to make sure that the boots on the ground are happy. And I think if you do that, it will definitely help. I also firmly believe that I think some of those, like you just mentioned, some of those tests, the sergeant's test, the lieutenant's test, the captain's test, should have books on morale and books on leadership. And understand that it's not just the patrol guy, it's not the admin guy. Yeah, that's all the good BS, right? To know the job and know that. But you know what? Most of your issues are for personnel, that you have to help people. There's times when they need, help. They need times that they need things to be done for them. So doing all of that is important. So I guarantee every CO out there will tell you that what's the number one thing that they deal with, and it's their personnel. So I think that you need to learn leadership. And leadership's not, you weren't born with leadership. You have to learn it, in my opinion. So I think that's important.
You were told to beware of the P's on the job, right? Prisoners, property, people. And I think we know what the other P is. I won't say it. But, right? Yeah. And it goes for both ways, right? To understand your audience, the people. And that's ultimately, that's the most important thing. That's the most powerful thing in leadership is people. Just understand the people and being honest with them, right? And there's nothing wrong, right? I think, I said it the other day. I'm doing the production for this today. It's like, I don't mind if someone else wants to do it. They're better at it than me. Go ahead, do it. And that's what good leaders do. You don't have to be the best, but you have to know who's the best around you. And you learn from them also, right? That's what good leaders do. I mean, listen, I am like a complete idiot when it comes to social media and internet. This is all new for me in retirement. And I used to learn from the young kids that would come into the NYPD and come into special ops, 21, 22 years old, and their whole life playing Xbox, and they knew social media inside out. I learned so much from them. I would look over like, what are you doing? Because I had no idea. I'm still trying to turn the computer on. And these guys are, they're watching in real time some guy passing off a gun to someone. So I learned a lot from them too. And that's what good leaders do. Not only, what I would say is when you become in leadership, let's say, for instance, if you're fortunate enough to become the chief of department, that shouldn't be the end of the road. To me, it's almost like you start over. Now this is the beginning. Learn a new thing. How do I lead this entire department? How do I learn from the people that have the boots on the ground? So we should always be evolving and learning, because I believe all skills are perishable.
Yeah. You get and don't be a chief of department that says, like you said earlier, things that should have been done when you were the guy that should have been doing them. That I didn't understand. That's not good leadership. You should have been, if you have the opportunity to do it and to lead, then do it. Don't retire and then complain that things weren't done when you're basically complaining about the things that you should have done. It's ridiculous. So
Reed spot on. Reed spot on. If it's the Reed I know, Semper Fi brother, he puts read military books on leadership. Outstanding. I read so many books on leadership, Colin Powell, etc., and learn from the good bosses and the bad ones. The bad ones, so you don't repeat their mistakes. So the best key takeaway I learned from Colin Powell's book was the 70-40 rule, which I would live by, or 40-70 rule, however you want to say it. And that is decision making. And if you're at the scene or a crime scene or any scene or any situation of encounter, you have to make a decision. If you have less than 40% of the information, it's too early to make a decision. And if you wait till you have more than 70%, it's too late. So it's right in that sweet spot, right in the middle. That's the key to a leader. Decision making, make decisions. So if you're out there right now, you're active, you're a new sergeant, find that sweet spot. Too little information's too early. Too much information, you're waiting too much, and you're become hesitant. Right in the middle. And then when you get back to the priest in a comfortable environment, you can tweak things and fix it. Don't worry about all that administrative stuff. That stuff really bogs you down. It's important, but ultimately make logical decisions, and then those things can be cleaned up and tweaked.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, here's the thing that I always told people, get all the information, then make the decision. Just like you said, if you need more information, then find out more information. But I always say make a decision, one way or the other. I'm not going to criticize you for making the wrong decision, but make a decision. Don't expect a decision to be made by somebody else. When I would get to the scene of a job, I would always say, all right, what do you got? What's been done so far, and what do you need? Don't ask me what I should be doing, what we should do. No, you should do it. And then if you need resources or you need things that you don't have, I'll get them for you. I'll be glad to get them for you. So, and with books, absolutely. I like I said, I think some of those books should be mandatory reading, and they should be part of the promotional exams. Make people read them. So absolutely.
I learned in the Marine Corps, and I still live by this. I think, at the time when I learned it, I was like, wow, that doesn't seem right. But the reality is that it makes a lot of sense when you go on your career. And it was this. They would say, it's better to make a wrong decision than not make a decision at all.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, like, damn, especially in the Marine Corps, like a wrong decision could cost lives. But yeah, a decision is better than no decision, because no decision actually leads to more issues, right? Latency and complacency, it's just hesitation, could lead to people getting hurt, especially in a line of profession as law enforcement. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, wrong decision versus a good versus a no decision?
Listen, no decision leads to chaos, and no decision leads to other people making decisions that might not be what you want as the final results. So, yeah, absolutely, make the decision. And you know what I say, it's like that the learning the P I forget what it was called, but it was a particular
event. I was
thinking
of. Okay.
And what you do is it's going to go around. You're going to make the decisions, and you know what? You're going to come back to a point where you evaluate your decision, and then you readjust and you make a decisions. I think so. I mean, yeah, make the decision, evaluate it, and adjust, and then you can continue on. But yeah, standing there making no decision. You know what? What's going to happen? Other people are going to make decisions for you, and they might not be the right decisions. So you got to protect your workers. So you got to make that decision, set it in motion, and then adjust. Nobody's going to fault you for adjusting things after things have been done, right? There's been many times where I've been a barricade, and they're like, "Oh, should we go in?" And I'll be like, "No." And then they're like, "Oh, is there anything in his hand?" No. All right. No, what? Yeah, go in. I didn't have eyes on. You guys had eyes on. Go. So it has to be fluent. You just can't be like, I'm scared to make a decision. Make the decision.
I think Reed makes a great point. I think sometimes a trait for leadership that is really overlooked, especially in the NYPD, is courage. I think you have to have courage to be an effective leader. Yes. That doesn't mean that you're stupid, right? Sometimes bravery can be stupid, but I think you have to have courage as a leader, physically and morally and spiritually. So Reed says, don't be a chief of department who kneels down. To me, that's not good leadership. Kneeling down, showing a lack of courage, that hurts morale.
That's terrible. Yeah. I hate, I mean, I was there, so that was the worst thing I've ever seen. So that's crazy. But, 92 Charlie says at 1851, he asked, who do you think the next deputy mayor of public safety will be? What's your thoughts?
Oh, that's actually a good question. Oh, man. So so we're assuming that position is going to stay, right? Deputy mayor. That's a great question. I think it's going to be another a Muslim appointment.
You think so? Yeah.
I do. I think it's going to stay. I think that's going to, because ultimately Zohran, Mamdani, Eric Adams, and Andrew Cuomo the same. I do think it's going to stay. I see it being a Muslim appointment. I'm not exactly sure yet, but I think that's actually a great question. Have you thought
That
about
is.
that?
I did think about it a little bit. I almost thought like Rodney Harrison. Hey, oh,
From Texas, you got cowboy boots yet?
I don't have cowboy boots, and the funny thing is, I met my cousin in the lobby, and he's wearing a cowboy hat, and he wouldn't give it to me. I was going to wear a cowboy hat.
I love it. You got to
He
go to
wouldn't give me
Buc-ee's.
his hat. He's a Staten Islander who moved out here a year ago. He's wearing cowboy hat like he's been here forever.
I got cowboy boots. I love them.
How are you guys? Great show today. Thank you for filling in, Eric.
Do I have to drive the both of you now? Like how does this work?
No, I drive myself.
Oh, okay.
I drive myself.
Lily says Ron got a haircut.
No, I just washed it.
You just took a shower.
hey, is there a mechanical bull in the lobby? Are you riding that?
No, I haven't seen a mechanical bull yet. Oh, great show, guys. Hey, if I could jump on that last question too.
Yeah, of course.
I think now that Tish has stayed, you may see Issa Abbasi as the deputy mayor of public safety.
Yeah, I was going
that'd be a
to say.
Muslim appointment. Yeah.
I was going to say that or Rodney Harrison.
It's quite possible. Quite possible.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think that's a great question.
Or maybe even like you talked about before, it might be Al-Tahari.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a good point. What do you think the role? I mean, we know the role of deputy mayor right now is YouTube content creation. So what do you think the role of deputy mayor of public safety though would be with Zohran Mamdani? Considering this is going to this whole community safety team and a community safety plan, what do you think the role would be? I think that's a great question. Like, who would do it and what would the role be?
Well, I'll give Rob a chance to take a drink of water. He's been running great tonight, man. You're on a roll, man. I appreciate it.
He's talked more now than ever. He's got like 8 shows.
Well, that's because you don't have me. The jabber jaw going all night. But I listen. Could they change the role? Because we know that the role doesn't technically oversee the police department, but it doesn't mean that it won't oversee this, Department of Community Safety.
Exactly.
I think that'll definitely change. Yeah. And then I also think that if Tish steps out, whoever takes that deputy mayor's job might just be the one that jumps right back into the PC spot then. So.
Yeah, but in the hierarchy, which is which? I don't know which is supposedly oversees. Is a deputy mayor better than a agency? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, if has, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know where deputy mayors fall in.
I think you nailed it, Ron. Honestly, I think you nailed it, right? Because where do they fall in, right? You have a police commissioner who the elites and the left and right love Jessica Tish. So maybe she might get more reign under Zohran Mamdani. But as far as a deputy mayor, I agree with you. I think that could be more like towards this community safety apparatus and be in charge of that, where they almost like split this in 2 departments. You'll have Jessica Tish in charge of the cops, the racist uniform guys, and then we'll have the deputy mayor with the civilians.
Yeah, and 92 Charlie says, at right now, the deputy mayor of public safety also oversees FD. They oversee what's the other one? I'm tired. It's been a long day. Eric,
the sheriff, right? The sheriff
but also OEM.
OEM.
Yeah. Gaz is good with that. Yeah. Hey, Modern Samurai asked the question, and I think this is a good one for Ron. He goes, what do you think the most important units at the precinct level were and are, and what would you add and what would you subtract if you had to build a precinct personnel from the ground up?
Well, patrol is the backbone, without a doubt. Patrol has always been the backbone of the command, and they're the ones that are always overshadowed by the special operations. Special operations are just that. They're special. They're supposed to be, a step above patrol. Those who stood out on patrol are supposed to be moved up in. There was always supposed to be that pecking order, right? And the way it was when I was a precinct commander was, you had, and when we were all cops too, right? You were a cop, you wanted to go into conditions, which is now like the Q teams, right? With a new name. You wanted to be a conditions cop to get into anti-crime, to get up into the squad, right? There was a pecking order back in the day. It just doesn't exist anymore. And I think that getting, it's been talked about, and the truth is, let's get back to the basics. It worked. Why not go back to that? So yeah, you got to have a strong patrol force, right? And again, those who stand out should go into these conditions units, which handle the conditions for the command. But again, how are you going to find that in today's environment? And you guys talked about it earlier, and I agree with you. It's not Mamdani. It's Mamdani in the trickle-down effect, because he's going to dictate to the police commissioner, who's going to dictate to the chiefs, who's going to dictate to the boroughs, who's going to dictate to the precinct commanders, who's going to dictate to their personnel. But it's ultimately how the rank and file are treated. And don't get me wrong. I disagree that I do believe that cops are smart enough to know how bad CCRB is, how bad the city council is with the diaphragm law and 50A and everything else. I do think that does weigh into it. I think the the main reason is walking into work every day and how's my day going to go? How am I going to be treated? But the way we police is absolutely dictated by the current atmosphere. And it's so anti-police, like I've said this a million times, right? Eric, before I left, before I got hurt, I came down to you guys after 2020, and I'm like, I don't know how you're doing it anymore. I can't come down with a good conscience and say, rah, 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 go out there and do what you guys were doing for all these years.
Yeah,
loved what you were doing. You guys had the heart of gold. You went out there. You did it for the right reason. You did it against the right people. Again, I'll back you up all the time. I've looked at every single one of your body-worn cameras. Said that a million times. Nothing's perfect. Everybody can look at a body-worn camera and nitpick some bullshit. Doesn't warrant 8 sets of charges. It's total nonsense. I personally looked at it, and we weren't friends. We didn't know each other from Staten Island. We didn't know each other from the job. I met Eric Dim when I became the commanding officer of Housing Borough Bronx, Queens. But how did I become to know Eric Dim? Because you and your teams stood out. So so I'm not talking shit because Eric's on the network and you and John have the main show and you started up the network and all this other stuff, and now we're on the network, so I'm going to blow smoke up your ass. I don't do that. I'm a straight shooter. And we've had hard conversations a couple of times upstairs, in the office, and it is what it is. But, how does anybody in good conscience ask people to go out and do these things knowing what the consequences are? It's always, you always have to weigh the good versus the evil, right? The good has to outweigh the evil. But now you do good and you become evil. It makes no sense. The city's upside down.
On a lighter note, I want to say I thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And that's the absolute truth. But I do want to tell our friends and listeners that every time I went to your office, I walked out with a bottle of cologne, because Big Ron used to have like 90 bottles of colognes.
I didn't have 90 bottles of cologne. I didn't have 90 bottles of cologne. There's a story behind it. Somebody gifted me cologne. I'm not a cologne. I don't wear cologne.
I used to walk out.
You're a pretty boy that was going out to the clubs, and you had your +1s and all this other stuff. We won't even get into it. You want to get into it? We won't get into it. But I didn't wear cologne, and if people gifted me cologne, it's the same thing with liquor. People gifted me liquor. I'm not a drinker. I re-gift it. So it's like, but I'm going to give it to people that are going to use it. I'm not going to give somebody, a pretty expensive bottle of cologne if they're not going to, appreciate it.
Hey, Hassan Mo is asking me, Well, first of all, he says I have a Palestinian flag up. I don't know.
What?
I don't know. He was asking me if that's a Palestinian flag. So
He's got to go to the optical. He's got to use his optical benefits before December 31st.
Hassan is the mad chatter.
he's mad chatter. He's asking.
Hassan's got to use his optical benefits before December 31st, brother.
Yeah.
Glasses if you think that's a Palestinian flag.
He's got David's vision.
Gets one this year and one next year. So
That's it.
he says, serious question. He says, prediction if the city will settle and reinstate and compensate workers. So I'd say the window of opportunity is closing, and I don't know if they'll be able to do it. I say that he may want to do it just to save face, but I can say that you won't survive the Zohran if it's not done within the next couple of weeks. So
I don't think that Mamdani will unring the bell if Adams rings the bell and the process is in motion. But I don't think that the process is a full and complete process. Right now, I don't think that they're making them sign the waiver. I'm not 100% sure that they made them sign the first time. They're waiving all their rights, to drop the lawsuits. They can't sue. There's no back pay, all this other stuff. We talked about that on our prior show and brought it up with Marlon. But if he's going to do something, if he puts it into official motion, I don't think that Mamdani will unring that bell. He's definitely not going to ring the bell. If it doesn't get into motion, which it already really is in motion, right? They put it out there. DCAS is involved. Yeah. So I don't think it has to be done by January 1st. I don't think he'll interfere because that would be a huge to reverse it would be worse than not doing it. For him to stick to his pre-election rhetoric of, I don't believe that it's fair and I wouldn't do it because then what would happen in the future if and when there's another pandemic? So that was his stance. So to stay on that stance is one thing because he's already publicly said it. To actually reverse and take away, I think would be horribly detrimental.
Listen, Ron, I don't want to do this to you, but unfortunately, 92 Charlie's asking me to do this. He says that you were inspectors late, and I have to put you in the minor violation log. So can I get your craft? I got to give you a craft. I don't want to do it.
Actually, 92 Charlie,
I don't know.
Let's correct 92 Charlie. I'm going to pull my originally submitted 28 and change the time on it.
All right.
I already had 28 in for the whole day. So now I'm going to pull it and I'm just going to take a couple of hours.
It was a gold. Was it a golden 28? I think it was a golden 28.
You signed it, brother.
I just checked with the 124 room and there's been nothing submitted. So the timekeeper says, I don't see a 28. You better shit one real quick.
It doesn't have to be submitted. It was submitted. And it was actually advertised last week when Rob took his 28.
Look, Marlon says it here. I agree with Marlon. Marlon, what's up, brother? They will drag that process on for years to also keep lawsuits in limbo as well. I think Marlon's absolutely right. I think this is just going to be Eric Adams' legacy to say, hey, he started the process. Yeah. And I think this is going to linger on. It might even go past Zohran Mamdani's first mayoral tenure. I think Marlon's spot on.
Hey, listen, Hard X Core has got me. He pinpointed me exactly today. He goes, Rob likes reading the comments. He had to pay attention today.
Yeah.
That's spot on.
Hey, listen, you did a great job, Eric. Even when you threw up the executive perspective logo in the middle of something.
Yeah, I thought it would be cool. I'm playing around like, let's see how this goes. Say this is I'm the executive perspective.
It was good. Even you got the video up good. Everything you did great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So does that mean I got a goal in 28?
You got everything I had to give out. You were the first recipient of the Housing Borough Bronx Queens coin.
That's true. Big coin too. It was like this big.
Now it wasn't that big. It was oversized, but it wasn't that big.
Why?
Well,
I
it was oversized.
got to hook you up a little bit.
But it was nice. It took me over 3 months to design that thing, back and forth and everything else. And people had to earn it. That thing never went up on those boards and everything else. People had to earn that coin, and you were the first recipient to earn it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Because some of those awards I put right next to my CCRBs.
I used to love used to come up and go, oh, the guy's down and go, how many more guns before I get one of Lason's coins?
Hey, they would count them down.
Hey, you had to get a pen first. You had to get a letter. Then you had to get a pen.
Modern Samurai said I got a field promotion today. Yeah. Today.
There you go.
So you know what, John Shell? You said never a captain. Today, I'm an honorary executive perspective. Yeah.
You're honorary DI.
I'll take it.
Hey, listen,
give Eric a Commander's Day. Yeah, give it to me, please. Come on.
Commander's Day. 1084 Banks at 1916. $4.99 to the podcast. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. If Kaz Daughtry goes back to being a detective January 1st, do you think that the PC will find a way to get rid of him? What do you think?
I don't know what's going to happen with that. There's got to be some weird thing going on with that, because I don't know his exact date of appointment, but I saw on either your show or Sal's show yesterday, he said in January he has 20 years of city service. So when you go to MELD, right, because he's technically assigned to MELD, designated as the deputy mayor, right, you can buy back your pension time. But now, how does that work with his pension when he was making a shitload more money as the deputy mayor?
Yeah.
I don't know how that plays into. I don't know if he pays into the city pension. It's a different pension. I don't know. I don't know how any of that works. Maybe we could ask.
Who was that deputy commissioner? Just got 3/4. Ask him.
Mark Stewart.
Yeah. How did that happen?
The key, you know what? Maybe he was so confused about de-escalation. I didn't know if you know that if you de-escalate something. I wonder if maybe him and John Shell could rub ankles together. Hey, which ankle hurts?
De-escalation. I heard that again yesterday when you played it. Oh my god.
Oh, is that outstanding or what? Oh my god.
Oh.
If anybody has not seen it, listen, please check out Mark Stewart testifying to the city council about his unit. And what's great about it is he talks about how the options unit has options. So
they have options.
It was very original.
They just redid it. When did we do it? Oh, we just redid it. He doesn't even know what they redid. He doesn't even know what they're talking about.
He didn't even know the address where he works.
Right. It's 127 and Penn.
Yeah, well, where is that place I've never been to? Thank you for my job.
127th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, or is it 127 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Yeah, and keep in mind, this guy's going 3/4. He retired from actual military, if you want to call it paramilitary service, 2004. I don't know that. I guess these ankles, they just after a while, they just crumble on you. I knew cops that got like some serious surgeries and they couldn't get it, but I guess commissioners, they're in harm's way.
I know some inspectors that need serious surgery and didn't get it.
Hey,
anonymous mayor, $4.99. Tish is there as an
executioner.
Oh, executioner at this point. Anyone lifted by Adams should be very nervous. I don't know.
I don't think so. I get it. Not May is a good guy. Always on X Spaces with us. I don't see that one. I don't see it.
You also don't know what's going behind the scenes. You don't know if Adams is going to tell Mamdani, hey, take care of this guy or whatever. I mean, not that he will, but you never know.
I don't think he will, because he didn't even call him to congratulate him on the night he won.
But he wasn't running, right? He didn't have to concede the election. So,
right. But you're the mayor. You don't call and congratulate the mayor-elect?
Yeah, I guess. And you took all his votes, I guess. Yeah. Hey, listen, stay tuned up. It says Ron, Rob, Eric, looking at the structure of the NYPD or any agency in today's climate, would you still be a cop?
I think we always answer this. No. Would I still be a cop? Wait, there's a difference. Would I still be a cop, or would I join up as a rookie cop? Like we ask the people that do the interviews, like Steve Weiss last week said he would join again. He's only the second person, him and Tom Joyce. They're the only two people that have ever said that.
Does he know that his buddy John Shell left? Maybe that's not a good idea for him. Sorry, Steve. I gotta call it the way it is, brother.
But would I still listen? If I didn't get hurt, I'd still be on the job. I always made it work. And it was not as a company man. I was always like a buff. Call it whatever you want. I love the job. I love people doing the job. I love people coming to work and having a good time, but getting the job done. And working around the chaos. Being the boss, you can work around the chaos if you do it the right way, and you're going to stick up for your people. And I had no problem. Everybody knew me. I was very well known for not having a filter and speaking my mind, and pushing back when I needed to push back. When people, like Vinny said today, he told DIs and inspectors, listen, I'm not going to ask my guys to do that. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. It makes no sense. I mean, but you know what? You build the relationship with the boss. Eric, you could have came up and told me, boss, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, if I said, I know, but you got to get it done, you would have turned around and got it done in your own way, right? You're not going to be disrespectful, but
I did. I went to your office, and I know we're smoking cigars in these cars, but we need these cars back now. We got to get these cars back.
Well, do you want to get into that? Listen. Here's the story. All right, Rob, this is the story with this, right? So it's assigned to the housing borough, right? My admin lieutenant had a car assigned, that's my car. Okay, where are you going? You're sending your guy for coffee. Where are you going? The ICO had a car. Okay, that's okay. He's got to go out and do borough stuff. But explain to me how the Viper lieutenant needed a car. So I took these cars.
Gotta get meal.
I took these cars. I had 4 unmarked cars, because in housing you had grant cars and then you had other regular NYPD cars. The grant cars, once you killed the grant cars, you were never getting a car replaced. That was right. The bad. You had to baby those things. Sometimes you had to go and you had to get, you had to get it taken care of on your own, because if you knew if it went into the shop, it wasn't coming back out, right? But I took those cars and I looked at my personnel in my PSAs and said, these guys are running 4 deep in a car. Why can't I put 2 cars out instead? And so I gave my cars from the borough to the PSAs. So it was mostly PSA 9 and PSA 7. So PSA 7, obviously my office was in their office. They were doing the best work. The PSA 9 had the best FIO team that I've ever worked with. PSA 7 had the best crime team. Their FIO team was always struggling. But I let them have the cars. And then my guys get in the car and they're like, boss, it's a pigsty. And the only thing I ask these guys, take care of the cars. The freaking door handles were ashtrays for cigars. The whole car reeked. There was shit on the floors. It's like, bro, it's like, you shouldn't even be doing this to your PSA car. This is a borough car on loan to you. So I told him, I said, that's it. I told the CO, all 3 cars, I want the keys now.
Yeah, he took my cars from me.
Took the cars. The boss, the CO, John comes up, he goes, boss, I'm like, John, I don't want to hear it. I've talked to them, I've warned them, blah, 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 blah. Eric comes up, he's like, boss, please, come on. We'll go. My guys will have the car right. You don't have the keys because they're getting the car detailed right now. They brought it to a detail. I said, Eric, out of respect for you, you got one more chance. I don't want it again. So that's the story behind those cars. What do I need cars for at the borough? Give me a break.
My guys, they basically chewed off the steering wheel.
Oh, but yeah, but Mike, that's my thing. Is like, all right, why do I gotta have cars sitting out in the parking lot so my guys can do coffee runs? Get the hell out of here!
Those are the good times I missed. We had some fun times.
That was before the Carrick came into play, though, because now you don't need, you had to send guys out for coffee. Come on, man.
Oh, the Carrick machine. But I don't even drink coffee. But I'm saying, but them, it's like, what are you guys doing? And and we kept one car, and listen, my guys lived in Long Island and Queens, so I let them park a car at PSA 9. So I kept one car. I let them, if they wanted a carpool, they can meet up at PSA 9 and they can come in. A little unofficial, save the tolls and gas, to try and hook up the team, But then that blew up because then the lieutenant, who's now a cop in Florida, he didn't want to play nice. It's like everybody had to run around, his schedule instead of trying to work with people. So I took that car away from him too.
Yeah, you had to retire to become a cop.
Oh, that's good. I took away his life money when the overtime dried up. I said, bro, just hang out. In a month, you won't have enough. There won't be enough overtime for you to do. Trust me.
Oh, here we go.
It's mom trying to call me. So.
Hey, Sleepy Joe, $5 to the podcast. He goes, can we find out who's taking bites off the steering wheel? Is that Eric? Are you taking bites off the steering wheel? I don't know.
I tell you what, though, I remember I used to open the car door and check. I'm like, oh my god, wait till it's spent the license season. This one, I would start cleaning. I'm like, yo, guys, get out! I would start cleaning.
That's all I asked.
Guys, but they were a mess. The best.
But that's all I asked. Just take care of the cars, because if you ruin them, nobody's gonna get them.
They were great. They had me laughing all day. Oh, I gotta clean this thing again. He's gonna take the car away from me. And we love
either that or you can sit on Joe Canale's lap.
Oh. Joe Canale, great cop. Shout out to you, brother. Oh, here we go. Any more questions for the executives and the driver?
No, I think that was it. I don't think so.
Awesome. Modern Samurai says, I remember when you guys came into PSA 7 and kicked us to 2 PP. Okay.
That wasn't me. I didn't kick anybody out.
You sure? They called you now.
Oh my God.
And listen, I think this is an awesome show. Honestly, a lot of stuff here. The bottom line, I think, Zohran Mamdani, while his policies are outrageous, ultimately comes down to NYPD leadership for survival. It really does. Hard X courses, great show. Eric, you did okay today. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Not bad for a quasi-executive today, right? So, no, listen, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, our friends, listeners. The comments engagement is awesome. Ron, I hope you're having a good time. I'm glad that you made it here for the time that you did. And Rob, as always, man, thank you so much. I'm glad you guys asked me to help out today.
Yeah, I really appreciate you filling in.
This is one thing for GI Bro. No, I got denied 3 times. So 3 strikes, I'm out. I did not get my 3 quarters.
Hey, TC's asking if the show's taking callers now.
We should.
Yeah, me. I called in. You got to have the special number. And we're not giving it to Juju.
Where is Juju today?
He was on Sal's show yesterday saying, give me the number. I'm going to come in. I'm going to call in. But then he said, you got to call. You got to give me the number before January 1st when I leave. This guy always slips up.
All right. Are you going to do the production to close us out?
If you want me to, it's fine.
I'd be more than happy. God bless. I'll keep driving.
Just keep driving.
All right. So, Rob, last words. Rob, your show today.
So I just want to thank Eric definitely for coming on. Ron, thanks for jumping in. All your help, I know, for the preparation. The 2 of you guys did a late one last night. And you know me, at 10:30, I'm out. Like that's me. There's no way. There's no way I could have lasted.
I didn't start working on it until 10:30 last night, and then get on the phone with Eric at like 12:30.
We had a whole midnight shift.
You talk about Stanima all the time. That's Stanima. There's no way I would have been able to do it. But
Yeah,
listen, thanks for.
I was up 3 hours later doing a podcast with John and Vinny. Who needs sleep?
Don't need sleep. So I just want to thank everybody. Thanks for the chat. A lot of interaction. Love you guys. Thanks for everything. Thanks for keeping in our engagement. Thanks for helping. Modern Ceramai's got DI Dim already up there, so that's cool. Got your promotion in. Appreciate everybody. Really enjoyed the show tonight. Ron, I miss you, and I hope to see some pictures of you with a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, a large buckle.
I would definitely get that hat. I'm going down to meet them. I'm going down to the restaurant in the lobby to meet them for dinner. I'll definitely get a picture with the hat.
And then when you
go to Buc-ee's, Buc-ee's is the best.
Buc-ee's is, yeah. And listen, when you can, I want you to get some Longhorns for the front of your car, and I just want to see them.
I waited longer for my rental car than I did for my plane today. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
But yeah. So and then next week, we're still talking about next week. We'll put out a post. We may or may not take off for Thanksgiving. We're gonna talk about that when I get back. And we'll put out a post on our social media. So follow us at Exec Perspective on X. But again, Eric, thank you very much. You're the guest. We'll give you the final word before we put on the rest of the shows for the week.
No, this is awesome. Awesome. You guys, I have nothing but admiration and respect for you guys. You'll always be executives to me, but even more, even better friends. And I appreciate it and being part of the network together. And I never told you, Ron, but I learned a lot from you. I did. I appreciate it. I had a great time. We used to have good laughs, because I knew when I walk into your office, I was laughing. All right. What am I going to get chewed for now? I know cigars in the car.
Stop it. My door, Eric, true or not, my door was always open, and it wasn't to spy on the guys going into the lounge at the end of the hall on my floor. It was so I could say hello to everybody, and they could stop in and say hello to me.
Yeah, no. We had a good time. We had a good time, and you definitely. And I will say this: shout out to you. And people know that I never forget. We had a car stop with a couple of guys in the car. We did grab a gun out of the car that night, and you were off duty on your way home, and you stopped and you backed us up. So shout out for that. That's real leadership. We don't see that anymore. I appreciate it. And Rob, you're awesome, brother. I mean, I remember you. We were at the riots, and God bless you guys. It's a shame that you're not on the job anymore, or at least to pass the torch. But God bless you. Enjoy your retirement. You guys enjoy it, and you deserve it.
And the job's missing out by not having guys like you still, and Vinny.
That's right.
So even though he's got some questionable friends, but whatever.
I gotta ask him about that. Anyway,
all right. So tomorrow at 1:05 p.m. you got the Sal Greco show. John Macari is going to be Sal's guest. They're going to talk about Commissioner Tisch staying on, and that'll be tomorrow at 1:05. And you got Friday. Eric will be back with John and Marlon for the roundtable. And then back Monday again, 08:05 for the regular show, whatever's new, whatever's going on. And I know next Wednesday, you're bringing on another retired lieutenant. You guys are going to get back to doing more interviews now that the election cycle is over. So that's really good. Then Sal will be back again Tuesday at 1:05 for his show, whatever's going on in local politics and police scandals, the latest scandals that'll probably break over the weekend, because they're never ending. And then Tuesday at 7:05, great show, the 10-4 Tavern with Tom Joyce, Pete Faselli. They had another great episode, retired NYPD guy that went out to be a news anchor and then a public information officer. So another great episode. Go back and watch the rewind on that. And then they have another guest coming up. I don't have it written down because I'm here. Next Tuesday, 7:05 p.m. And then possibly Rob and I will be back next Wednesday, 17:05 p.m. on Thanksgiving.
Tell John he has no idea what time. Just
17:05, 5:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thanksgiving Eve. If we decide not to have a show, I want to wish everybody a blessed Thanksgiving. If we're not on, but I think Rob wants to do the show, so we're probably going to do a show next Wednesday. Probably a quick one. We always say that, and then we go 3 hours.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
We're
So,
hitting 240. We're close.
yeah. So, listen, we appreciate everybody. We appreciate the chat. We appreciate all the follows. We appreciate the coffee and donuts because Eric's on today, so we'll call it coffee and donuts instead of Diet Coke.
What do you guys call it? Diet Coke and what?
And Twizzlers. Me and Rob were prepping for a show, and I was eating a Twizzler. The next show, Rob says Diet Coke and Twizzlers. So now I have to have props in my room. I have to buy Twizzlers so when they come up, and then I took a bite of one like 2 weeks ago, and my wife texts me, "Don't eat on the air. You look horrible." So, like you said earlier, Rob, I said, "Yes, dear. Okay, dear. It won't happen again, dear."
That's good.
So thank you, everybody. Thanks again, Eric. Really appreciate it. And we will see you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.